Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the northeast corner of magnificent autumnal South Africa. We are sitting here in the Kruger National Park. We're on the western fringes, and we're in between Cheetah Plains and Djuma, two iconic names in the ecotourism industry, and they are part of what we call the Sabi Sands, a collection of private reserves very famous here on the western fringes of the iconic Kruger National Park. There are some elephants there, obviously, and you are on a live safari here for the next 3 hours in the Kruger Park, and so because it's live, we'd really like to hear from you during the course of the next little while. Temperature will probably drop on a sunny day like this to about 23 degrees Celsius, which is about 72 or so degrees Fahrenheit, and that's about as cold as it'll get in the midday, so that's pretty good. We really don't have a winter to complain of in the slightest. So that'll be a mum and her little calf. And the little calf trying to learn how to eat difficult, spiky things. Sorry about that, everybody. You lost us for a second there. I think a meteorite hit the satellite that was broadcasting to you. Oh, my glasses were on there. I'm so sorry. Dreadfully rude of me. I've brought them actually for this little elephant here, who's, of course, Elvis the elephant. He is our friend Sam's elephant, and the sun's very bright for him at the moment. Anyway, I was saying, there we go, before the stone hit the satellite, or whatever it was, this is a cow and her little calf in there trying to learn to eat some very spiky stuff. And that spiky stuff is Flugia verosa, or the white berry bush, and then she's going to move on to something called a zebra wood, which is possibly the nastiest bush out here if you happen to be a thorn-eating mammal, which of course these elephants are. And quite a difference from the sort of gentle food that a nursing mother gives to her youngster. Beautiful wizened old eyes there. And we are so very lucky to spend this time with these elephants. Jamie was just saying to me today, and I wouldn't mind if you would ask her about it, because she'll probably give you a better explanation of how she was with that half-trunked male elephant today, a bull who's lost half of his trunk somehow. And she was just saying how although he gave no indication from his body language about being uncomfortable, she just got a sense of his discomfort. And elephants do indicate their discomfort with their trunks, so it may have been something to do with the fact that she couldn't, he's only got half a trunk to show his emotions with. But for me, I just so often feel that elephants communicate. They have some way of indicating their comfort or discomfort that goes beyond body language. And I get the feeling here that these chaps are completely okay with us. Definitely watching us. The older cows will be making sure that we harbour no ill intent for their youngsters. Look at that little thing now, Dave. Check that little one there. And I think that one's been lying in some mud sometime during the day. The little ones do like to sleep. They like to lie down every so often. It is, of course, well, I mean, it's a pretty heavy life as a young elephant calf. The herd moves quite big distances. And so they get tired. And, of course, they still get nutrition from their mother's milk until they're about 2.5 years old. And so they can afford to lie down every I don't know why that's so amusing, but it is very, very funny. You see, elephants can't run. They basically power walk. And when they power walk, they stick their ears out and stick their toes out, their tails out the back. And it is just so ridiculously funny, especially when they're only that size. Dave's in hysterics. All righty, well, as they disappear into that bush, let's hand you over to Jamie Patterson, and we'll get an introduction from her and an idea of what she's going to do this afternoon, and we'll head off east towards Cheetah Plains. This guy is completely beside himself. See you just now.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Sunset Safari. I'm glad that Dave is having such a wonderful time. Jandre, you're not really beside yourself with laughter just yet.
Not just yet, no.
Not just yet, but the afternoon is yet young. Hello, my name is Jamie, and as you can tell, I have Jandre on camera with me this afternoon. And we have found, in contrast to our very crisp and cool morning sunrise safari, that the afternoon has heated up wonderfully. And the buffalo taking full advantage of what little mud is left in this wallow on Twin Dams Road. Just the top of his shoulder and the top of his head peeking out. Gives you an idea of just how deep this particular wallow has been dug out to be. Probably thanks in part to those lovely pachyderms that James was with earlier. This buffalo gentleman seems to be enjoying it tremendously. Bear in mind that we are looking down at this buffalo. If you were walking, so with your eyes at sort of standard average human height level, maybe not quite Brent height, but average
James height.
James height, yes, average James height, or my height, we're exactly the same, although he seems to contest that. You can,
You're definitely taller, Jamie.
I don't think that's quite true. I don't think I'm taller than James. I'm pretty sure we're exactly the same height.
About twice the height.
We won't tell him that. I'll keep that quiet, Jandre. But yes, we're going to shuffle forward. Basically what I'm trying to say in my description of the various members of the team, Jandre being quite tall actually, but that you could really easily walk right past this guy and you wouldn't see him. Look how covered in scratches his face is. Most likely that is from just walking through the thorny trees around here. Buffalo not too concerned with their thick skin for such trivialities as sicklebush thorns and zebrawood thorns. But that fly was irritating him a little bit. Notice how he hasn't collected any oxpeckers. That's partially because of the mud that he's in. No oxpecker wants to go and try and climb through that on his side. That was the most disdainful look that any buffalo has ever graced me with. Every now and again the fluttering of a butterfly coming down to drink what little water is left in this particular pan. So he is truly enjoying a spa day. I know that James this morning on his bushwalk painted his face with some mud from around Treehouse Dam. Now, the only thing that I can say to that is that he is a braver man than I, because I'm not sure I could bring myself to put the mud that is around here at the moment anywhere near my face. My hands maybe, but my face, given what I know of the occupants of the mud in these hot afternoons, or on these hot afternoons, and their hygiene habits, which includes not being terribly fussy about where they deposit their excretions. He's surrounded by flies. Got an entourage. Must be so irritating with him fluttering into his eye. In fact, I know that is so irritating because I know exactly what that feels like. He's just enjoying some ruminating time, covered in some very thick, very glutinous mud. Boy, do you mind if... Sorry, sir. Do you mind if I shuffle past? I don't think he'd take terribly kindly to be called boy. He's not a young gentleman by any stretch of the imagination, in buffalo terms at least. So, sir, do you mind if I come shuffling past? I actually do want to get past you. I think you're going to startle a little bit, but hopefully we can go through with a minimal amount of disruption. He just looks so terribly comfortable. Do you think that would actually be quite a vulnerable spot? A spot that could potentially, I mean, it's unlikely, especially at this time of day, but it is a spot that could potentially lead to ambush in the form of large cat. A couple of Birmingham boys might take advantage of his current position. I don't know how fast he'd be able to remove himself from this particular wallow. Hello, boy. I'm not going to stay for too long because it's going to disturb him. There we go. Sorry, boy. Yes! Get away in a good shape. Get rid of some of those flies. I don't know if you saw as he stood up, but there was just this cloud of flies around him. Don't worry, he'll lie straight back down and go back to wallowing. So, Virginia, you missed the morning sunrise safari on the subject of large cats and was wondering if I had any updates for you on that baby hippo. I don't, I'm afraid. My morning was otherwise occupied, spent initially searching for Birmingham boys and then finding them and then trying to re-find them once again. But from what I can tell, the Solala Pride didn't catch that baby hippo. I haven't heard anything from any of the other guides. I did ask. It didn't seem as though they were successful. I don't know how, to be completely honest. I really don't. And unless that baby hippo perhaps just chose a different side to return to the safety of the dam. And those lions, unlikely to trouble themselves to go wading in there to try and pluck that baby out. So a safe point around the dam. I know that we were all a little bit concerned as to how that situation was going to play out. And we still don't know where that baby's mother is. But I think that it's safe to say that she's not around anymore. Because I've certainly never heard of a hippo abandoning her youngster of that sort of age. Sorry, we're stopping to have a look at a squirrel. I was hoping you might pose in a slightly more appropriate spot than that. I just love watching their agility every now and again. Be at home, on the ground or in the trees, although they will always seek refuge in trees. Having to work just that little bit harder to find food at the moment. Although times are still easy in comparison to what they will be as we go further into the winter dry season. Hop, hop. Okay, squirrel. It disappears. Back to Virginia's question. So that baby hippo, as I said, appears to be orphaned in somehow. Might even have been an effect of the drought. Maybe her body just couldn't withstand the rigors, plus having just had a calf and the use of those resources. So as to the future of that baby, it's escaped the lions for now, as far as we know. I don't know how much longer that will last, and it's got a tough time ahead of it for such a small thing. Without mom's guidance and care, I mean, a baby hippo has very few natural threats with mom's protection. It's unusual for a pride of lions to be brave enough to tackle or to provoke the wrath of an angry female. It does happen if they're desperate, but it is relatively unusual. The biggest threat generally in a young hippo's life is actually other hippos. It's interesting that it's been as tolerated as it has been, and that might be one of the reasons. Because yesterday we saw that the larger hippo around Arathusa Dam get out of the water and were able to sex it for the first time. It is a male, it's not a female. Might be one of the reasons why that baby is sort of hanging around the outskirts and the fringes of that dam, just because that male hippo, as the water starts to disappear, quite possibly not feeling as tolerant as he might otherwise in a nice rainy season. Maybe that baby hippo's actually being pushed to the outskirts. And he does face a tough time ahead. The Tsalala Pride were around Arathusa this morning. We didn't go there, we were distracted by other things, and they were clear on the Djuma Dam camera. But we will at some point follow up on that baby hippo and see what's happened to it. Aaron, you were wondering on the subject of things to be followed up upon. You were wondering if we ever followed up on the side-striped jackal that you saw whilst you were acting as our zoomie. And the answer is that actually Sam did go and have a look. He didn't see any sign. It's so tricky, Aaron, to actually, I mean, it's one thing following up on jackal to see where their tracks are, but to actually follow a jackal, and of course we can't off-road for them, the chances of it hanging around the roads or next to the roads are relatively slim. So unfortunately, we have no update for you there. That being said, side-striped jackal used to be seen, if not regularly. Is this a risk? This is a risk. There is a kingfisher there, Chandra. It is. No, don't worry. If I hadn't seen it fly there, never mind. I just saw it fly away.
It's in there.
Is it in there?
Somewhere.
Somewhere in there. Okay. Well, to be fair, it was almost impossible to see. The only reason I saw it was there was because it flew there. Sorry, Aaron. I'll get back to the jackal in a moment. Oh, I don't know. It was a brown-hooded kingfisher. So, one of the ones that most of our regular viewers will have added to their bird list, but one that the newer viewers might be a little bit unfamiliar with. We don't see that many of them around here, as with the jackal. So Aaron, apparently there used to be a pair of side-striped jackal that lived around the Djuma Dam, and the last time one was seen was when one of Karula's sons, Kanuma, caught it. Oh no, sorry, it was Quarantine. It was my mistake. It was Quarantine who caught the jackal on that clearing and killed it. It was apparently running away from a hyena, if I'm not mistaken. I'm going to go just double check around Treehouse Dam, make sure that Karula hasn't come swinging by. Meantime, James is after another spotted cat on Cheetah Plains, so let's find out how the search is going.
We haven't found any spotted cats. Dave, you got any picture there?
Yes, I do.
We've got tiny little franklins. That's an adult, but there's some babies in there. Little franklin chicks here on Cheetah Plains. I'll just try and go a little bit forward and see if we can't see them. They're tiny, they're little balls of fluff. Little downy balls. They're so well hidden. There. If you just zoom into the left of that green bush there. Yeah, left of that, up a bit. Up. Right. That green bush in the right-hand side. If you zoom in beyond that, you might get them. Oh, some beautiful blue flowers. That's the wandering Jew, Commelina. There's a franklin. But where is its little baby? Little ones are in there. And they are, of course, like most ground birds, they are altricial. There, you can just see the movement there. They're altricial when they're born, which means, sorry, they're precocial when they're born, which means that they can move almost as soon as they're born. There, we've got a tiny little one you can see moving on the right bottom side of your screen. There, move into that little gap. There, little Franklin. So they're able to move just like the lapwings and the guinea fowl. As soon as they're born, they can move around. Anyway, we're hoping he'll move into that gap. There, oh, it's adult again. There's a little one. Just ducked, knew it was being super zoomed and ducked out of the way. There, you can just see it bottom left there, Dave. There you go. And another little one. There they are. So much like, as I was saying, all the other ground birds, they are born able to move and run, and so many birds, of course, are born totally naked, and they're just helpless. Their eyes are shut, and all they can do is open their little beaks and beg. And for a francolin, that would be a very dangerous thing, because they nest on the ground, and so a predator would be able to get them immediately. Do they nest on the ground? Hang on 1 second. Hang on 1 second. They're certainly on the ground very early on. I'm just going to check this quickly in me field guide. F for francolin. And we want crested francolin, common resident. Crested francolin, common resident. No, yes, there we go. Come on now. There we are. Breeding. Monogamous, clutch usually 5 to 6 eggs laid in grass-lined scrape. Yep, they don't nest in trees. So grass-lined scrape in the ground. They just make a little dent in the ground, and then they lay their eggs. And I'll show you a picture of the eggs, which will be quite interesting. They're not grey-winged francolin, Henry. And the eggs will be very well... These ones aren't that well disguised. I don't know if you can see. Is that all right, Dave? Can you get those? Yeah. So they're actually sort of an ivory-coloured white, but you can see the kind of grass-lined scrape that they would make. It's a lot deeper than something like a lapwing's nest, and the lapwing's nest, at least eggs, are consequently more camouflaged than those ones. And that is the crested francolin. Right, on we go. I'm going to take your dark glasses away there, Elvis. Sorry about that. Now, we've been sent on a quest to cheetah plains, quite apart from only finding some cheetah, perhaps some jackals and ostriches and whatever else this place has to offer. We've been sent by Rebecca to take some footage of a tree. Now, it's not often that you're sent to take footage of a tree, and so I was only too happy to acquiesce because I know where the tree is and I know that it cannot move. So it's very easy to do. And the tree in question is the long-tailed Cassia abbreviata, or the sjambok pod. And I know that Brent was very excited when he saw one of them here. Just to give you an update on Brent Leo Smith, he of the ailing right hip, he has had a cortisone injection into his hip. That sounds like the most beastly painful thing. Anyway, he's got over that, and he will with any luck be on drive on Friday afternoon, probably the latest Saturday morning. So those of you who are missing him deeply, like the rest of us, you will be pleased to know he'll be back by then. Hello, Bugsy. You're an observant fellow, Bugsy. You say that there are no anna trees here. That's a tree called Faidherbia alba, and they are the most wonderful trees, Bugsy. And you say why they're not here. They have beautiful pods, and the pods are a source of very valuable forage for many animals. Bugsy, they don't occur here because it's not actually dry enough, which, if you can believe it. They occur further north of here, where I used to work at a place called Ngala, about 50 kilometers north of here. There was one anna tree, and I like to say she lived on the banks of the dry Timbavati River, but there were no others. And in the same area, that's the kind of southern reaches of the baobab tree. So if you go north from there, along the dry water courses and certainly lining the banks of the great rivers, the Luvuvu River up in the northern Kruger National Park, the Limpopo River obviously, all the way into Botswana and the Tule Block. They're lined with anna trees. And those anna trees, you'll find that the area there has probably a rainfall about 100 millimeters less than we get here. So about, 4 inches less rain than we get here. And that, I think, Bugsy, is why the anna trees grow up there and they don't grow over here. It's a stunning, stunning tree, everybody. It's a kind of tall, acacia-like tree with a branching, umbrella-like crown and some fairly vicious thorns. Land. I tell you, land. It's a jewel beetle. They're so beautiful. If I can just get it to land, I can't make it land, obviously. No, it's gone. Giant jewel beetle. Got it. Right. The beetle is gone, I'm afraid, everybody. Let's go and find out what Jamie's got at Treehouse Dam. I'll show you a picture when you come back.
Good afternoon and a very warm welcome to Miss Morgan's class at Three Oaks Elementary School. Now, I hear that you guys have all got your safari hats on. That's a very good thing. I've got my hat on. Jandre, have you got your hat on? Yes, Jandre's got his hat on. Very important when you come out on safari because the sun out here is hot. Even though it's winter, it's still in the mid-70 degrees Fahrenheit. So it's a really burning hot day out here in the African bush. I want you to close your eyes and imagine that you are sitting in an open vehicle. There's no top, there's no windows, there's no doors. You're just sitting in the back and you're driving through the African bush, feeling the wind blowing on your faces and smelling the dust and the dirt. Now, out here in South Africa, we're actually in a place called the Sabi Sands, which is really close to a famous game park called the Kruger National Park. We've got all kinds of big animals. We have elephants and lions, leopards, cheetah, and a very big animal called a buffalo. Now, we're going to drive forward a bit, but you've got to make sure you're all watching really carefully. See if you can spot some animals before I do. And we're coming up to the waterhole. The waterhole's a really good place to be on a hot afternoon like this. And, oh! And we'll stop and have a look at some buffalo because all the way in some places the streams are frozen. So we'll just enjoy some more time spent with the Duggar boys at Treehouse Dam. And this is why I would not be as keen as James was to put the mud from Treehouse Dam all over my face. I did feel that was a very brave decision on his part. It's amazing how much it's gone down just in the space of the last few days. Reflection in the water. Well, my plan is for the afternoon, we're going to go and we're going to see if those Birmingham boys are still around or if they did in the end make good on the sort of half-hearted attempts they were making at hunting the buffalo that were in this block, or in the block where we left them. I suspect that this could well be the buffalo herd. Alright, well, welcome back to the Three Oaks Elementary class. I hope you guys heard some of the introduction. But just a reminder to keep your safari hats on and your eyes peeled for all of the different animals that you could see out here. Now, this animal might look like a bit like a cow, but it's actually called a buffalo. In fact, it's called a Cape buffalo. And on afternoons like this afternoon, the Cape buffalo gets really very hot. And so they come across to one of the dams. In this case, it's a dam called Treehouse Dam. And they come through to drink some of the water and then lie in the mud. And it just helps to keep them cool. Let me explain something while you are looking at the buffalo. We sit on a vehicle and we drive around. Basically what we show you on your screens is actually happening right here in real life, halfway across the world in South Africa. My name is Jamie and I drive you around, and Jeandre is the guy in the back. And we have the cameraman called Jeandre who operates it and shows you all of the different animals. So together we're a team that brings you basically a live safari. It's like being on the back going on a game drive. Now Elena and Cody, you were wondering, is this it's a fly that's trying to land on my nose? Okay, it's okay, it's gone now. It's gone back to the buffalo. You were wondering if this is fresh water or salt water. This is fresh water. It's rainwater that has collected in this dam. And we're actually very far away, or quite far away from the sea where we are. You guys are actually quite close compared to us. We'd have to get in the car and drive for a long time. Logan and Serenity, you were wondering why the buffalo are lying in this fresh water. And they're lying there because they're too hot. It feels nice on their skin, but also buffalo get ticks all over them. And the ticks actually sit and they make them really, really itchy and uncomfortable. And lying in the water is one way of getting rid of that feeling. But if you look really closely, can you see that bird that's sitting on the buffalo's back with the red, bright red beak? He's also helping the buffalo to pick the ticks away. Oh, but the buffalo wasn't enjoying it very much. And that's because that bird doesn't just help move the ticks and the fleas and the parasites. Sometimes they also pick at scratches and grazes that the buffalo have. And that's actually quite sore for them. So that's why he rolled like that. But not all of them are lying in the water. Some of them are just lying down further away. And they're just resting. It's a nice hot part of the day. And the hottest time of the day is when the buffalo feel the safest. Do you know why? What do lions do in the middle of the day? Lions sleep when it's hot like this. So the buffalo can sleep comfortably without having to worry about any lions coming to hunt them. It's a really, really big animal, close to 2,000 pounds in weight, so absolutely enormous. We're going to leave the buffalo now, and I'm actually going to send you across to somebody else who would really like to say good afternoon. There is a man called James Hendry, and right now he's doing his very best impression of a monkey.
Hello everybody, all the way from the United States. You find here, and it's got a very special pod, and a pod is the case in which the seeds live. But I was just trying to climb up here and see if I could find you one, but I'm afraid I cannot find you one, and I hope I'm not going to fall out of here. But I'm sure many of you love climbing trees, and I hope you're very safe about doing it, but you're never too old to climb a beautiful tree like this. Now what I'm going to ask my dear friend Dave, who's on camera today, I'm going to ask him to tilt down and show you what this tree is growing on. Can you see that? I'm sure many of you know about termites, and many of you, some of you will have them living in your house and eating your furniture and sometimes eating your walls. But this is the kind of thing that they live in here, and it's called a termite mound. And the soil inside a termite mound, the soil is the sand, is very, very nutritious. And so for a seed, the seed of this long-tailed cassia that was planted in this termite mound probably almost 100 years ago, can you believe that? Almost 100 years ago, has bloomed into this incredible tree, perfectly green, and it's just a very, very lovely tree. Okay, I'm going to try and climb out of this tree, and if I fall out, you're going to have to go back and see Jamie. It's always very easy to go up a tree, I find, but it's not always so easy to come down, especially when you've got old bones like mine. Hup. Phew. I made it. What a stroke of luck.
Well done, David.
Thank you very much, David. Now we are on a little reserve called Cheetah Plains. And Cheetah Plains, as I'm sure Jamie told you, is part of the Greater Kruger National Park. And the Kruger National Park is much like your Yellowstone National Park in the United States. It's just a whole lot bigger. Let me plug myself back in so I can hear any questions that you have to ask us. All right, let's go and see what we can find. Hello, Caroline and Haven, I think. Oh, there's a pod. You want to know if there's fruit on this tree? Well, there is a kind of fruit, and that's what I was talking about. Can you see this grey thing hanging down, Dave? That is a pod, everybody, and that's why it's called the long-tailed cassia. I couldn't find a fresh one. That's an old one. And so, Caroline, that's the fruit of this tree, the long-tailed cassia. Doesn't look much like a peach or an orange or an apple, does it? But it's still a kind of a fruit, and that's what the fruit of the long-tailed cassia looks like. And that's why it's called the long tail, because it looks like a tail. Very nice. So normally there would be lots of them sort of in the middle of the summertime, but of course we're not going into summer anymore like you are. We are going into our winter time, and so the fruits and that sort of thing are all finished. And there are none on the ground here. None of those fruits are on the ground, because although that's not like an apple or an orange or a plum, which we'd like to eat, the animals think it's very delicious. And really understand what it can do to you, then you can poison yourself. And so I've got to be very careful about that. I do eat lots of things out here, or I try and eat lots of things out here, but you know, there are not many things out here that taste very good. And the long-tailed cassia, I don't think would taste very good at all. I'll show you one plant that we do eat though. Here's one here, and it's a nasty thorn tree called Ziziphus mucronata. Can you all say Ziziphus? I think Ziziphus is one of the nicest words anyone can say. Its English name is the buffalo thorn, and the buffalo thorn is very good spinach. It makes good spinach, and it's got a nice fruit as well. So we'll taste some of this. We'll give some to David too, because otherwise he'll be hungry for the rest of the day, and then he'll be cross. We don't want that. Do we, David?
No, no, no.
No, no, no. Ooh, there's something else here too. Can you see this, Dave? See this white thing?
Just a moment. Yep.
That's called a scale insect, everybody. And there's an insect inside there that has built a very special home around him. I don't want to disturb him, so I'm going to leave him alone, but there's a living insect inside that, and that's his special home. And that protects him from the sun and from predators who might want to eat him. Okay, David, don't say I don't ever do anything for you.
Thanks, James.
There you are. Mmm. Tastes just like spinach. You must eat spinach, everybody. Spinach is good for you. McDonald's is not good for you. Right, on we go, except on Fridays. Then it's fine. But spinach is good for you every day. Right, on we go. Nice to have my lunch on drive. Now Jamie's got something really big and interesting to show you, so let's go across to her.
This afternoon, I just can't seem to escape the buffalo. Now, instead of it just being a group of bachelors, a group of boys that we saw at the dam, this is actually, there's some female buffalo as well. And if we're really lucky, we might even see a baby buffalo or a calf. Now they're all back on their way to Treehouse Dam to have a drink. Oh, panic, panic. What are you running from? Calm down. Off they go. I think that's the last of them, actually. Big herd. There could have easily have been 100 or more buffalo there, all racing to go and have a drink. I think those buffalo were running because one of them stepped on a stick. Now, buffalo they're herd animals. They like to be in the safety of their family, and if one animal panics or gets a fright, then they all get a fright and they all run. So that's why they all ran across the road in front of us. Now, we're going to leave them to go and have a drink. I think most of them have disappeared. That was it. Don't see any more coming. And the reason I want to go and carry on is because you know what follows very often behind a buffalo herd? There's still more. There's still more coming. There's an animal that very often follows behind a buffalo herd and waits for it to get dark, and that is the lion. While we wait for our buffalo to come to us, I don't want to get in their way. The reason I don't want to get in their way is because then I'm just going to scare them. And I don't want to scare the animals because we live in their home. This is their home. We're just visitors. And imagine if somebody came into your home and came too close. You'd be very upset. So Cameron and Victoria, you were wondering about how big a buffalo is. And the answer is, he is almost as tall as I am. I'm 5'7". So a buffalo at his shoulder would come all the way up to my neck, close to my neck, and they weigh much, much more than I do. They weigh much, much more than Gendre does. They almost weigh about the same weight as the car that we're driving in, maybe just a little bit less. 2,000 pounds, can you imagine? Now, how many of you have heard of bison? This is an animal that's quite similar. Oh, look, there's a baby coming. There's the tiny baby at the back, already growing horns. Keeping safe between and behind Mom. Hello, baby. It's okay. Oh, there we go again. Somebody else got a fright. Also, a little bit scared because they can smell lions all around here. The lions were walking about last night when I was tucked up safely in bed. I could hear the lions walking around calling, It's only really the male buffalo, the boy buffalo, that will fight, and they fight over girls. They will fight each other so that they can mate with the female and that they can produce the next offspring or the next calf. And that's one of the only reasons why buffalo will fight each other. Now that patch of horn that they have at the base of their skull where those horns meet, that's called a boss. And it's not just horn, it's solid bone. Solid bone that sits all the way on top of their head, and they can use that like a battering ram. So when a buffalo really fights, they run at each other and they clash together and their horns catch together. Now that doesn't often happen, but it does occasionally. The females have horns to protect themselves. And Katie and Jaden, you were wondering, why would a lion follow a buffalo? And the answer is because the lions eat buffalo. Unfortunately, it's just the way of things out here that lions have been designed to sit at the top of the food chain. So they are the top predator out here. And the only food that they are adapted to eating is meat. Why they follow the buffalo is during the day, they can't really hunt because it's too hot. But when it does become night, then they can hunt the buffalo. And it's also dark, so they can see much better than the buffalo can as well. They wait until night falls, but they don't want the buffalo to get too far away while they're waiting for night to fall. So quite often what they'll do is they will walk far, but they'll walk far behind the buffalo herd.
Wildebeest, or gnu's, and they're called gnu's because they do a very funny sound. And the sound is bow, bow, bow. So now I want you to all do that in your classroom. I'm going to count to 3, and then you're all going to go bow. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Bow, bow. And that's why they're called a gnu. Gnu. And they're eating grass, you can see. And they like to live in a big group. Why do you think they like to live in a big group? Well, it's just very safe to live in a big group. You don't want to live out in the open and live on your own, because then if a lion or a cheetah or a leopard or a wild dog wants to come and eat you, well, you're not going to see it nearly as well or nearly as easily as if there are a whole lot of you helping to look out for predators. So that's why these prey species, or herbivores as we call them, live in big groups where they can keep an eye out for predators that might be stalking them. And it's the same reason that you find deer and elk. They also live in groups because they, of course, in your part of the world, are afraid of wolves and mountain lions and maybe even bears. I don't know if bears eat elk or not. So let's just nip a little bit forward, just so that while we're looking at those wildebeest or gnus, at least I can scan the clearing. So we're in what we call a clearing now. You can see that there are no trees in this area. It's very open, and that's because the soil is very different. And what we need to do is scan very carefully under every little bush and see if there isn't a cheetah or a jackal or something like that. A jackal is like a fox. All right, let's stop here. We'll have another look at all those wildebeest there. You can see them grazing. Some of them are having a nice snooze in the sun. I'm sure many of you like to go and lie in the sun every so often. And that's exactly the same as these gnus or wildebeest. It's very comfortable for them to lie in the sun. Maddie and Jason, what a clever question you guys have come up with. You want to know what the predators of a wildebeest are. Well, the predators are normally lions, Maddie and Jason. Lions, and what else would eat them? A leopard would eat a very small one. Now, I can see a small one there, Dave, in the clearing lying there. Yeah, you're on a small one there, just to the right of that. Well, even that one you're looking at there is quite a young one, and a big male leopard might be able to take one of those. I just want to give you an idea of how big that animal is. If you think of a small pony, so you've all ridden a pony, I'm sure, so not quite as big as a horse, but like a small pony, that's the size of that wildebeest. And a leopard is the size of a pretty big dog. And so that's about the biggest that a leopard could take. A leopard would not take a big adult like the ones on the left-hand side of those. A wild dog might take one of these. I'm just struggling to hear the final control a little bit. I think it's Gabby and Dave, or Gabby and Gabe. Right, Gabby and Gabe, I think it was. You want to know what type of grass these wildebeest are eating? Well, they are eating something called, well, there are lots of different kinds of grasses here, but what they'll be looking for specifically is something called Sporobolus nitens. Now, Sporobolus nitens is a very fancy word for just saying it's a sort of a good kind of grass that grows in these sort of areas where there's lots of salt in the soil. And because there's lots of salt in the soil, the grasses that grow here are very nutritious, and one of those grasses is called Sporobolus nitens. Can you all say that? Sporobolus nitens. If you can't say it, it doesn't matter. It's not important. It's just important that you know that the grasses that they're eating here are full of nutrients because they're growing on very, very salty soils. Now, I can't see any predators of these wildebeest or gnus sitting in the clearings here. I'm looking with my very powerful binoculars, but I can't see anything. So let's go a little bit forward and see what we can find just up ahead. In a clearing like this, we'll be looking for gnus. We might find ostriches. Do you know what ostriches are? They're the biggest birds in the whole world, and they're bigger than a man, much bigger than me. And we might also find jackals, which are, like I say, like little foxes. And while we're looking here, Jamie has got some tracks of some really interesting animals to show you.
I have some amazing tracks to show you. Can you see the footprint there? It's going to be really difficult for you to see if you don't know what you're looking for. So I think the best way is for me to jump out and to show you exactly what it is that I'm trying to make you see. What we have here is a very big and very round footprint. So I want to stand in the sun because I don't want my shadow to block the track. The best way to track is with the sun shining on it. So this is the track I'm looking at here. And I'm actually looking at two tracks. One is a front foot that is here, and one is a back foot that goes like this. So what animal do you think would have a foot this big? And here's his next foot. The front foot here and his back foot landed on top of it, pointing in this direction. And the next track is here. Big round track here and big round back foot here. So imagine it's something big walking slowly. This is just his normal walking pace. There's my track there, just to give you an idea of just how big this foot is. Here's my foot, and then the next step's here, and then his next step is here, and here, and here. Yes, which particular animal has such long legs that he's walking up the road? Long legs, big wide feet, and those wrinkles that you see in his track are actually wrinkles from this particular animal's foot. Oh, I'm tired just from jumping up and down in his tracks. And that's just him walking. See if you can guess which particular animal came walking along this road. Yay, well done. You're all too clever. You've guessed that it is an elephant track, and you are absolutely right. It is an elephant walking along this road. So we were looking for lions, but now we've also got to keep an eye out for elephants too. We're looking for a big grey shape. Elephants are one of my absolute favorite animals. They are so big and peaceful and really, really clever. And they can live almost as long as a human being can live. So they've got lots of time to learn. Now this elephant I know because he's all on his own. I know that it's a boy because only the boys walk around on their own. Females are always together with a group. Oh, he's left some more evidence for us. Here we go. So it's not just his footprints in the soil. He's also left something else. You see that? Some piles of dung. Let's jump out and have a close look. I'm going to bring some for you. I'm going to have a look at it. Now don't forget, you must never play with poo unless an adult says it's okay, but I know it's okay because it's an elephant. I'm going to wash my hands straight afterwards. Ouch. Got to watch out for that door handle. Okay, let's get you some of this elephant's dung. Oh, I better check he's not here somewhere before I go running down the road. Oh, it's wet. But it is cold, which means that it was a little while ago that he walked down this particular road. So here we go. An elephant's poo. And it smells actually really nice. I know that sounds silly, but an elephant's poo smells like, how many of you have ever smelled horses? Horses or cows? Doesn't smell that bad at all, does it? That's what an elephant's dung kind of smells like. Lots of grass and lots of leaves in there. A little bit gross? Kind of a little bit gross. Jandre, you don't want any? You don't want to hold any?
Quite hungry.
Jandre is definitely not allowed to eat any of the elephant dung. So you can see lots of grass here. This is all just grass and leaves. And oh dear, now I've got elephant poo all over my hands. I'll give them a good wash after I'm done. I'm going to put his poo back on the ground so that the beetles that will want to come and live there can come and live there. Kind of a bit gross, but it's all part of living in the bush, is getting to know the different signs and smells. And as I said, I will wash my hands. Ooh. Here we go. Right. Would you like to go and look for that elephant? Perhaps we should go looking for some lions. Let's see what we can find. And while we go looking, let's go across to James, who's got one of the most wonderful birds out here.
Now, you were watching there some elephant dung Jamie was showing you, and that hornbill, that zazu bird there, is going from little piece of elephant dung to little piece of elephant dung, and what he's finding inside is most likely termites. And remember, I spoke to you about the termites that like to build those big mounds. Well, not all termites build mounds. Some of them just live under the ground. And the termites that this guy is trying to eat live under the ground, and they eat things like elephant dung. And aren't you glad you're not a termite? You don't have to eat elephant dung. Now, I'm going to teach you something about our local cultures here. One of them is called Zulu, and I don't know if you've heard the word Zulu before. It's a very famous word. But I bet many of you have seen the film or the play The Lion King, and you know that Zazu was a hornbill just like this. And Zazu is the Zulu word for wise man. Izazu is, oh bless you David, is a wise man. David just sneezed, everyone. Don't worry, nothing exploded on the back of the car. And this one is called a yellow-billed hornbill. And a bill is the same as a beak. So he's called a yellow-billed or beaked hornbill. I'm getting a question here from Bella and Alfred, but I can't really hear Kirsten properly. Kirsten, you're going to have to ask me again. Oh, I see. Why do beetles live in animals' poo? Well, one animal's poo, Bella and Alfred, is another animal's food. And nothing out here goes to waste. So absolutely everything will be eaten at some stage. There are only two kinds of things out here that I've ever seen that cannot be eaten. One is hair, so the hair on an animal cannot be eaten, and the teeth of an animal cannot be eaten either. They can be swallowed, but they'll come straight out. And animals like hyenas will eat those, but everything else out here is good food. And so beetles, some kinds of special beetles, some kinds of termites will find dung to be as delicious as you find a chocolate. And in the same way as you wouldn't eat termites, you would eat peanut butter maybe. Well, to a hornbill like this, a termite is like delicious peanut butter. I've eaten a termite before, and they do taste a little bit like peanut butter, but not quite as good. Alrighty, let's carry on down here. We did a loop around this way, and what we're going to do is go all the way to the end of that road and turn up the border of the Kruger National Park. Righty, on we go. Did you get that, Dave? Right. Mrs. Guarin, Mrs. Bellamy and Mrs. White, your classes have joined us. Welcome. I hope you are having a marvellous day there in Virginia Beach, Virginia, United States. And you join us on Cheetah Plains, where we are looking hopefully for cheetahs. Haven't found any yet, but we're looking about the place. And we're in a big clearing where there's lots of interesting stuff going on. And the first thing we'll show you is a whole lot of wildebeest, which we showed your classmates before, but we're going to go past them again anyway, and we'll show them to you. And then we're going to go a little bit further to the east, in other words, to the area where the sun would be rising tomorrow morning, and we'll see if we can't find something there. But here is quite a wet patch, so let's just drive through here. There might be something interesting. Wherever there's water, there's normally something interesting. Because wherever there's water, there's something for the birds to eat, often something for the spiders to eat. And we find lots of interesting spiders in this part of the world. Right, so let's just stop here and we'll have a quick look at those wildebeest. There we go. Hello, Dawson. You're obviously a young man and you want to know what the fiercest animal is. Well, Dawson, the fiercest animal out here is probably the human being. Human beings are very fierce at times. Sometimes they're gentle and sometimes they're fierce. But otherwise, the fiercest animal out here is an animal I don't think you've heard of before. And it is called a honey badger. And I'm going to show you a picture of a honey badger. Honey badger is a little mammal, like a, well, what does he look like that you would know? He looks a little bit like a skunk, I suppose. And he also can smell a bit like a skunk. That's him there. That's the honey badger. And the honey badger is not to be trifled with. He's a very fearsome beast. And many animals, even lions, will think twice about taking him. He's not very big. He's only about 2 feet long. So that's about as long as this is. From there to there, he's only about that long. And he's got shaggy skin like that. So we're going to go and see if we can find those elephants. Let me turn around. Sounds like they're at a watering hole just up here. And of course, there's a lot of competition for water out here. So maybe they're at the watering hole. We'll be very lucky if they are. It'll be wonderful to see them having a drink. I'm going to drive quite quickly. I know you don't have very long with us. And we'll just find a road here that takes us up towards that watering hole. Here we go. And Gabe and Madeline, while we go and look for the elephants, you want to know how long a honey badger can live. Well, a honey badger, I think, lives probably just over 10 years. Maybe up to 12 or 13 years, but not much longer than that. Very few of the animals out here live beyond 20 years. A noticeable exception, of course, being the elephants, which we'll hopefully find now, and also a rhino and a hippo. They all live beyond 20 years. But everything else tends to live below 20 years, and the honey badger, I don't think, is any exception. Right, what we're going to do is drive up here, then we turn off the car, and we listen. And while we're doing that, Jamie has got something very special to show you.
Good afternoon to all of you. My name is Jamie and I'm driving the vehicle around. And this is Jeandre on the back. You'll probably only ever see his thumb unless something goes very wrong, in which case you'll see the rest of him. But he sits on the back with a camera and he shows you all kinds of wonderful things. Is going to be sleeping in the shade, so that's a good place to look. And of course the lion is grass colored, almost a sort of a browny color, but they have black on the ends of their tail and black on the ends of their ear. So everybody look really closely and let's see if we can spot some lions. Nothing to our right, Jeandre. Nothing to our right here. Let's check carefully. Is there anything to our left? Just lots and lots of trees. Oh, I saw movement. Have you spotted a lion yet? Did anybody see the lion? There's a lion there. Believe it or not. Have you seen him yet? There he is. Well done, Gendre. The lion fast asleep with just his tail swishing about. Okay, well now we know that the lions are there. Shall we try and get a bit closer? Annika, you were wondering if the lions are hiding from any other animals, since they do seem to be doing such a good job of hiding. Well, the thing is, there's only two other animals that a lion needs to hide from. One is another lion, and one is a human being. Now, lions are actually quite scared of people during the day. It's only at night that they're not scared anymore. But no, what they're hiding from at the moment is the hot, burny sun. It's still really, really warm here, even though it's midwinter. That's what they're trying to hide from. They're trying to hide in the shade, because lions actually get too hot really quickly. Now, they've been following buffalo all morning, and they have been roaring all night. I heard them last night walking around going, So here they are. Let's see if we can go around. We can try and get a view of one of their faces. You can see how difficult it's going to be, though, just because the bushes are so incredibly thick. Lily, these are actually quite young lions, live around 5.5 years old. Lion can actually live right up to being close to 10 years old if it's a male, even up to 13. And a female usually can live a little bit longer. They can live all the way up to 16 sometimes, but most of the time it's around 10 to 13 years old. Like, if any of you have big dogs as a pet, that's about how long a dog lives. A lion kind of ages like a dog. Okay, lots of trees. Everybody watch out. There's a tree coming overhead. Watch out, Gendre. I don't want to knock you off the back. Now, these trees are called monkey orange trees. I do need to hop on the Game Drive channel because there's other people wanting to come and bring their guests to this incredible sighting. So I'm going to be doing that in one moment, but while I do, let's go over to James so that we can find out what he's doing this time.
Okay, we haven't found anything here, everybody, and I can't hear those elephants again, so we've just stopped. But a very big bird just flew off the ground here. Now, I want to see what he was eating. So I'm going to walk into the bush very carefully. You've got to walk carefully. You've got to keep looking around. Dave, you'll tell me if the sound is all right, will you? So we're just going to look behind this big termite mound over here. Often birds, of course, will scavenge. You know that many of the buzzards in your part of the world scavenge. So maybe something has died here. I don't see anything obvious. I don't know what it could be. But what I will show you is something quite special. So here is a whole lot of elephant dung. And this elephant dung, remember we were talking about what likes to eat the elephant dung, and if you look in here, you can see there are holes. See? Those holes are made by termites, and the termites have gone into this dung and they're eating it. Now look carefully. you can see that the elephant dung has been not eaten, it's not digested very well, and so there's still lots of goodness in this food. And so it would be a real waste if nothing came to eat it. And they drop it on the ground, and it fertilizes the soil, and the termites eat it, and the dung beetles lay their eggs in it, and it provides a whole home for lots and lots of different creatures. And the best thing about elephant dung is the way it smells. I'm going to give some to Dave.
Not bad at all.
And when it gets to this age, it smells a bit like mushrooms. But doesn't smell bad at all. I'm going to put it back so that these creatures here that were living under the ground, under this dung, will be able to go back home. I'm just hoping to find whatever it was that those birds were eating. But I don't know what that was. Now, where did I find this thing? I found it around here. It's important that you put these things back because, remember, we want to have little harm. We don't want to do any harm out here. Here.
Audio.
We don't want to do any harm at all, and we want everything to be as if we weren't here. We're here to observe and not to affect any of the animals and the creatures and the plants out here. I haven't heard those elephants again, but maybe somewhere around here. So we'll keep looking. See if we can't find them. We never know what's going to be around the corner. Completely unlike a zoo, remember? All right, on we go. John, I think I heard your question as, are the termites partial to the trees? Is that right? Harmful. Oh, John, they're not so harmful. No, they're not harmful to living trees. They can be harmful to dead trees. Here's a really nice example, actually. Right next to us here is a tree growing out of a termite mound. So this tree is living basically in the same house as a whole lot of termites, and they're not harmful to it at all. But once the tree dies, then they will eat the dead wood of the tree. Let's carry on. Matt and Bethany, you want to know why these termite mounds are so big. Well, Matt and Bethany, can you imagine a family that was, instead of like your family, which is probably maybe 4 or 5, or if it's a big family, 6 people, imagine the size of the house you have to live in when you're 6 people. If you are a family of 2 million people, that's probably more people than are in Virginia Beach. One family, they have to live in a home. And that's why their termite mound has to be so big, because there's so many of them that have to live in one place. That's why they're so big. And they're not always, you know, there are lots of different kinds of termites out here. This is only one kind of termite that builds this big mound. You can see there's another big mound over here. The rest of them live under the ground, but they also have a big home under the ground. We just can't see it. Here's another very big termite mound. See? So we'll drive down this road. I thought I heard the elephants shouting inside what we call a block inside this area over here. So we'll drive very slowly down here. Molly, you want to know what an elephant sounds like? Well, an elephant sounds like many different things. And they make lots of different calls. And if you're really, really good at hearing, apparently you can hear a female elephant make up to 50 different kinds of sounds. But to our ears, because our ears as human beings are not very good, we can hear them make a couple of different sounds. There's the trumpeting sound. It goes... That's what an elephant sounds like when he's trumpeting. Otherwise, they make a very low growling sound. It goes... That's what it sounds like to them. And then they can also scream. I'm not going to do that, but they can make a really loud screaming sound. So while we drive down here and hopefully find the elephants, let's go back to Jamie and the lions.
As I said, it's really, really difficult for us to see them properly just because they're hiding so well in the thick bushes and in the thick trees. But there you go. If you look carefully, you can see his head And he's resting it on the ground. And the fluffy parts of that mane, the hair around his head and around his neck and chest. And only male lions have a mane like that. Michael and Aidan, you were wondering whether or not we have any tigers in this area and whether or not lions and tigers get along. And unfortunately, we don't have any tigers here. I would love to see a tiger. Oh, fly in my eye. That was a really good shot that fly managed. So no tigers here. They actually are more around the jungles of Asia and right up into parts of Russia. And we're in right at the bottom, right south of Africa, in South Africa, the country. And we're quite far away from where there are tigers and lions. The lions and tigers can get on because they're different types of animals. They're different species of big cats. So lions move together in a group. Tigers generally are off on their own, solitary animals. So they're very different, so they probably would get along. And there are small places in the world where there are lions and tigers living together, but not here, unfortunately. No tigers here. The only tigers we have in South Africa are in zoos. But these are proper wild lions doing what male wild lions generally do. In fact, all wild lions. They spend a lot of time sleeping. Oh, Mason, you were wondering how strong is a lion. So Mason, I've been very lucky in my life. I've got to actually spend time with lions when they've been anesthetized, so not put to sleep. They're very sleepy and the vet's busy looking after them. You go up to a lion's forearm, so the part of their leg that attaches to their front paw, it is thick like this and full of muscles. They're incredibly strong. So this male lion probably weighs somewhere in the region of about 440 odd pounds. They're big, strong animals, and they are capable of taking down those big buffalo that we saw earlier. They are capable of taking those down. Now, not only are lions very strong, but they're also very fast. So Mason and all of you guys in the classroom, look at one side of the wall. Now look at the other side of the wall. And now blink. Just once. Just close your eyes quickly and open them. That is how fast a lion can run from one side of that room to the other side of that room. They can go really quickly. But as I said, they're not a threat to us during the day. And Aidan, you're wondering, why is a lion scared of people during the day? Well, Aidan, as you can see, these lions have learned to no longer be scared of people. It's actually only people who are walking around. And that's because lions, unfortunately, have been hunted by people for many years. It doesn't happen here, I promise. Nobody is allowed to hunt lions here, but they've got instinct memories. So you know how a wildebeest knows to be afraid of a lion because they might be hunted, or a buffalo knows to be afraid of a lion? Well, lions have learned that they should be afraid of people walking about. Luckily for us, where we are now, and throughout most of South Africa, you can't hunt lions because it's not something that we do here. His ear twitching there, did you see that? Got to watch closely for those little movements. There it goes again, that's his ear that's moving about. And that light patch is his eye and then his nose in front. I know it's really hard for you guys to see, but this is the best view of a lion, and it's a lion doing what lions do best. Now we're sitting probably about 15 feet away from these lions. Look how hard it is to see them. And they're not even trying. It's rolling over there. Oh, no, don't tuck your head that way, boy. Aw, there we go. Look, he's lying on his back. Oh, big sigh. can see the white whiskers underneath his chin. Now, Lindsay, you were wondering, do we name the lions? And yes, we do. In this case, these are two boys known as the Birmingham boys. So there's actually 4 of them in this area, and they're the 4 dominant males. This is their territory, and they're called the Birmingham males. Now, usually, traditionally, we only name the groups of the lions, but with our live safaris, we spend so much time with these lions and getting to know them that we've actually started to name them individually. I'm pretty sure that the one of them, the biggest one, is called Blondie, although he's not very blonde anymore. His mane has started to go dark in color. I'm not sure which lion the other lion is. So they have names. There's also a pride of lovely, really beautiful lionesses called the Nkuhuma lionesses. They're named after the local language's name for a type of tree. So Nkuhuma means brown ivory tree. And they're named that because they were first found in the shade of a brown ivory. So yes, we do. And we also name our leopards. And we've started naming our spotted hyenas as well. So many of you think of hyenas as being horrible, smelly things that steal from lions. They don't. They're actually amazing animals. They can steal from lions. They can also hunt for themselves. And we've got a clan of spotted hyenas with tiny babies that we've been watching grow up. So we name our spotted hyenas as well, just because we spend so much time with these incredible animals. I'm sort of ducking my head to try and get away from the sun to see if I can see what that other lion is doing. Now, Audrey and Caroline, you were wondering, these lions are being pretty lazy right now. Why do lions sleep so much? And they sleep as much because they actually have to expend a lot of energy doing what lions do. So these boys probably walked close to 10 miles last night, if not even more, all the time, calling, shouting basically, and marking their territory to make sure that no other males come in. If you look really closely there, you can actually see his tooth. You see his tooth sticking out. The way that he's lying, his lips have pulled back, and his tooth is sticking out there. That enormous canine tooth. And then, when a lion does have to get up and hunt, it can take hours and hours of patient work. But mostly they sleep because they can. They don't have to keep too busy, and they only need to eat once every 3 or so days. So they're nice and restful in the shade. Back across to James, who has a bird that is constantly busy.
As Jamie says, the birds here are so often very, very busy, and this particularly busy bird is called a Burchell's starling. And I don't know if you get starlings where you are, but I think you do. And this one is a Burchell starling. You don't get Burchell starlings where you are, but you'll get other kinds of starlings. And just look at the brilliant, brilliant colours that he has as he eats around. He's also looking in some dung, you know. He's looking in some buffalo dung, which also attracts termites. And look at the colours, black and blue and purple and green, shining in the sun as it begins to set. And you can hear him, if you listen carefully, you can hear him going, walk, walk, walk. Now, of course, as soon as I tell him to make a sound, he goes silent. Isn't he pretty? And you see he's got long legs, so he's very good at walking. He's also got good wings and a long tail so that he can fly very well. He's a very good flyer. And if you look at his beak, he's got a beak that is designed specifically for eating insects. That's what he likes to eat, insects. Righty, let's carry on. We haven't found the elephants, I'm afraid. I didn't hear them again, so I don't know where they are, but they might come out at some stage. We'll keep looking behind. And we're just going to go up here and see if there isn't anything in this particular corner. Oh, there's a special bird, Dave.
Got him.
Hello, Charlie. You'd say, what would I do if I heard an elephant running at me? Well, Charlie, the thing to do when you see an animal running at you is to decide whether it wants to kill you or if it's just making a threat. And most of the time, oh, that bird's flown away, I'm afraid. I can't believe it. It was turning just above us. It's called a vulture. Charlie, I'll get back to your question. A vulture is like what you call a buzzard. So it likes to eat the dead flesh of other animals. So, Charlie, if an elephant was running towards me, the first thing you have to do is to stand still and just check whether he's actually being serious or if he's actually going to come towards you. And if you decide, normally they're not being serious, you see. Normally they're just saying, you must go away, you make me uncomfortable. So once you assess that, then you turn around and you find a nice way to go away so that you don't irritate him anymore. And that's normally what happens with elephants. But you definitely turn around, you look and you make sure and you understand what they're doing. Dawson, I think you want to know, do birds eat other birds or other animals? Well, there are different kinds of birds, Dawson. Do you know there are over 2,500 different kinds of birds in the world? In fact, I think there are even more than that. There are about 2,000 in Africa alone. And some of those birds eat insects, some of them eat fruits, some of them eat seeds, and some of them definitely eat other birds. The hawks eat other birds, and some of them will eat small mammals. So lots of the hawks and the eagles will eat small mammals. The fish eagle out here, much like your bald eagle in the United States, they eat fish. So that if there's something to be eaten, a bird will eat it, and even something enormous like an ostrich will eat leaves. So yes, they definitely eat absolutely everything that there is. And Jesse, you want to know what the highest flying bird is, Jesse? I'm going to show you. It's one of those vultures, and it's called a Ruppel's vulture. Oops. And a Ruppel's vulture, oops, let me just show you here. A Ruppel's vulture is a very big bird, and you know how they know it was flying so high? It was hit by an aeroplane. A big aeroplane, a big Boeing 747, hit one of these birds over what we call the Central African Republic, and it was flying at 30,000 feet. In fact, it was flying even higher than that, I think. It was somewhere around there, though. There it is. That's the Ruppel's vulture there. So you can see he looks like what you would call a buzzard. That bird was flying as high as a jumbo jet when they hit it. Unfortunately, I don't think the vulture survived, but it is how we know that this vulture lives so high in the sky. All right, everybody, I hope you have a wonderful day there in Virginia Beach at your school. Learn lots, work hard, be good, and eat all your greens, especially if you happen to find a buffalo thorn. You can eat the leaves of that tree. Until we see you next time, bye-bye and stay safe. For the rest of you, let's head back across to the lions with Jamie.
Eating all your greens is definitely good advice. Unless you're a lion, in which case they only really eat grass or their greens when they're feeling a little bit sick and want to make themselves throw up. Those of you with cats, pet cats and dogs, might also expect that they do that. To all of you, I hope that you've had an amazing school drive, and that you've enjoyed being on a real live safari. And hopefully one day, not too far away, you could come out here and visit these animals in real life. Have a great day for the rest of your day at school, and goodbye. And so far, no movement from our gentleman lions. I suspect we spoke about this morning, and the fact that these lions are relatively empty-bellied. And I think that they are probably, as the afternoon draws to a close, start moving quite possibly towards that buffalo herd that we saw earlier, making their way towards Treehouse Dam. They don't show signs of being terribly excited about being on the move just yet, though. In my experience with the Birmingham boys, they do have a tendency to be late risers, so to speak. They only really get up and stir themselves long after the sun has gone down. The Nkuhumas, on the other hand, are the sort of the opposite. Most of the time they're up and about just as the sun is starting to go down. These boys take a little bit longer. From what I can tell, we've got Blondie and Birmingham boy number 3. And thank you for those of you who sent through the possible IDs of these boys. Oh, hello. Here you are. Here's your nose. Mandy, you were wondering about our 5th member of the Birmingham boys, Scrapper, or as he was officially known, Tokolosh. You were wondering what happened to him. Now, the last time I saw Scrapper, he was in bad condition. He was very, very thin. His spine was very prominent. There was clearly something that had happened to him. The results of the autopsy, as far as I know, haven't been released, so we haven't heard any further news as to what happened to him. There are a couple of suspicions. One is the possibility of TB, but bearing in mind that 80% of Kruger's southern lions, recent research suggests, are actually carriers of TB without being all that adversely affected. It usually takes something else, some other reason behind a drop in condition for the TB to actually kick in and to severely weaken an animal to that extent. The more predominant theory that has been discussed is that he was injured in a buffalo hunt of some kind, quite possibly with an injured lung, a collapsed lung that then actually just took quite a long time to take its toll on him, and which eventually killed him. We knew that there was something wrong with him. He was obviously couldn't keep up. And the interesting thing about a male lion's instinct is that they've got this tremendous drive to protect a territory, and it's a drive that's almost stronger than their survival instinct. So he pushed and pushed and pushed to stay with the rest of the males, to call with them, to patrol with them, whereas what he could have in theory done is gone and rested up and healed. Not necessarily healed, he might have died anyway, but he could have actually gone to sort of lie down and wait for them to kill something and then gone and join them. What I'm trying to explain, badly, but I'm trying to explain, isn't it incredible just how powerful that instinct is within a male lion? It's the same thing that will drive them to fight a rival. In a lot of cases, even when the battle is mismatched and they could actually end up being killed in a fight with another male lion. The Matimbas didn't do it, they ran. But in a lot of cases, that isn't actually what happens. In a lot of cases, they go off and they fight to the death. It is interesting that up into his last moments, he was walking with the Birmingham boys. He participated in their push into Buffelshoek to push the Salatis north of the Manuleti boundary, which is where they are now. And whether or not he was actively fighting, he was there calling, territorial marking. It's an incredible thing, the resilience of wild animals. I've noticed that Blondie is still limping. I last saw him about a month and a half ago, and he's still struggling along a little bit. The natural injuries of the way of life out here. Virginia, you're thinking along exactly the same lines that I am. No, didn't work the first time I tried that joke, but it worked even worse the second time. Virginia's wondering about the pregnant Nkuhuma lioness and whether or not I have any news about her. Nope, unfortunately not. No updates yet. Nobody has found the Nkuhuma lions today. They crossed over, as far as we can tell, towards into Torchwood, so the property to the east of our boundary. As to whether or not that... I love those teeth, by the way. That's pretty funny. As to whether or not the pregnant lioness was with them, or if she's denning in one of the drainage line mares, well, at some point we will find out when we go in there tracking something else, and suddenly hear that growling sound that nobody really truly likes to hear. But it might be a while. If she has given birth, it could be a long time until we actually get confirmation of that. Unless we stumble upon her accidentally, she's going to hide those cubs away for 6 weeks or so. And we might not see her. And speaking of cubs, I have to boast a little bit. It's not connected in any way to my work in the Sabi Sands or in... I say I'm boasting, it's not really, I've had nothing to do with this. But one of my, as some of you know, I spent a lot of time prior to working here, working with rhino. And one of my absolute favorite, the female that I spent the most time with, I'm not going to say where, I'm not going to say when, but she's just given birth to a brand new calf. And I'm so incredibly excited for her. She's an old girl. She's over 30 now. So it's impressive that she's managed one more calf, and really, really exciting news. So Belega, somewhere out there in Africa, has given birth to a brand new baby to help supplement the rhino population. I've only just found that out now, so I'm a little bit chuffed. Has me grinning from ear to ear. I don't think that these, I have to be honest, I don't think that these lions are going to be stirring anytime soon. So I'd like to put it to you as to whether or not you would like to stay or whether you would like to go. The decision will be decided by possible or by democratic vote. I'm happy to stay, and if we do leave, then we will be coming back to find out what they do. So while you make up your mind as to where you would like to go, what you would like to do, let's head back over to James and see how his search for cheetah is going.
You find us right on the very northeastern boundary of our traversing, where nothing has come across this road. This is the Kruger National Park, the great vast expanse, 60 kilometers away from here, maybe a bit more than that, about 45 miles is the border with Mozambique. Mozambique, of course, famed for its wonderful coastline, really is an incredible coastline with archipelagos of magnificent sort of marine life and wonderful marine reserves. So if you're ever thinking about going on an island or diving holiday, Mozambique's a wonderful place to go. Not so much here. You can't go diving here, obviously. No water in the Kruger Park. Treehouse Dam's not great for diving, is it, Dave?
Not quite.
No, not much coral there. Anyway, I'm afraid we haven't found you anything since I last saw you, but we're doing a little patrol down the eastern boundary. There are plenty of flies on the eastern boundary. I was really rather hoping that the flies would disappear as it started to get a bit colder. You know, last night was pretty chilly. We went down to about 13 degrees Celsius, which is about 55 degrees Fahrenheit, I suppose. And the mosquitoes, there was one mosquito in my room last night, but she was making a very poor effort at flying. So I thought today the flies would be gone. But the flies, they're very enthusiastic, and they're very, very wily, and they're very, very tough. Now, let us look at these impala here. You can always rely on the impala. Look at these impala, and there's some very interesting light developing. Obviously some interesting stuff up in the atmosphere in the west. Anyway, there's some impala. And while we look at them, Debbie, you're all the way in Vancouver, and you want to know about whether I've ever spent the night in the bush out here and what I took with me. Yeah, I know we've often spent the night out here. I haven't done it on Djuma, but I've often done it in other places where I've lived. And well, the thing is, if you're going to spend the night out here and you're going to spend the night on the ground, as it were, so let's say you just decided you'd camp right where we are now, where those impala are, you'd build a fire. That would be important. That does tend to keep animals away. And then you would have to leave someone up for the whole night with a torch, and you would keep a lookout. So a torch and a lookout would be the best way to stay safe. Then, if you can get off the ground, so if you've got a deck in a tree, which, you know, a lot of these lodges have got places for guests to sleep out, and those are decks normally in trees, well, then you can look at this chap herding his harem of females. See him holding his head down like that. And Dave, if you can just zoom in on his eye, you can see it's been a fairly torrid rutting season for him. He's got bruising under his eye. And at least now he's thinking about having something to eat, because for a long time he won't have been thinking about that at all. So Debbie, if you can get off the ground onto a deck, then that's normally pretty safe and everyone can sleep quite soundly. The more people you have, the less likely you are to be approached by animals, because a large number of people sort of deters animals with their sounds and their smell. But otherwise, if you were on your own, Debbie, the best thing to do would be to get up into a tree, maybe sling a hammock or something like that. But to sleep on the ground out here alone would be a very silly thing indeed, because things like hyenas and lions are just simply not intimidated by us when we're not standing on foot facing them. See how these impala females are reacting to this male? Watch, every time he moves towards them, they move slightly away from him, and he doesn't lift his head, he puts his head down. And Renee, you want to know the difference between antlers and horns, and of course this is a common question from our North American viewers, because it's incongruous that we should call them different things. The real difference, Renee, is that an antler will regrow. It grows once a year and then falls off during the winter time. And for an impala, the horns don't ever fall off. They can break off during specifically this time of year when they're rutting, but then they don't ever grow back again. So they are fixed to the skull. They're part of the skull, whereas as far as I know, an antler is attached to the skull, probably with a loose sort of cartilage join. Now, it is my considered opinion that these females here, if they were going to get pregnant, are now already pregnant. We've gone through the dark phase of the moon in May. So the first dark phase of the moon in May this year was in the first week. Oh, how lovely. Animals do love to relieve themselves in front of me. It is quite astonishing. Yeah, that's it. Wonderful. Absolutely amazing. Somebody tweeted today, they said to me, they said, I can't give you any animal that hasn't gone to the loo in front of you. Well, I can't give you any animals either that haven't relieved themselves of any excess toxins in front of me. Anyway, we've gone through the dark phase of the moon in May, and the May moon is now starting to wax, which tells me that these females are probably pregnant already. So that chap, while he's herding them, is possibly wasting his time. I think we're going to be in for quite a sunset today. Alrighty, let's continue. We're going to do one more patrol of this eastern boundary, and then we're going to head off towards a very special spot that I found the other day, where we can look out west over the mountains. Hopefully there will be some leopards, lions, wild dogs, ostriches, elephants, that sort of thing on the way there. Let's see how close we can get to this chap. Debbie the Backpacker. It's a nice Twitter handle, Debbie the Backpacker. There he is. You want to know if he will protect his herd after they've all started, or after they're pregnant. He never protects the herd. They look after each other through vigilance. So by living in a herd, they're able to see what wants to come and eat them, and that's how they look after themselves. This male, once his testosterone levels drop after this rutting season, they will go off and live in bachelor herds together, and they will have nothing further to do with the females. They'll live close by to the females. They provide no protection to the females at all. Well, they do indirectly. They provide protection by basically only thinking about the women, and because they're only thinking about sex, basically what happens is that they forget to look for predators, and in so doing, during this particular time of the year, male impalas get eaten a lot more than females, and because of that, they do provide some kind of indirect protection. I guess in the same way that old buffalo bulls provide protection by attracting lions away from the herds. Lovely colour there, but you can see his eyes quite badly damaged. He's obviously had quite a lot of fighting. And a lot of these males, like I said before, are starting to look a little bit sort of stiff around the front. Their necks are stiff, their shoulders are stiff, and that's from the extended fighting that they've had. I'm sure they've spent most of April with a fairly severe headache. Very nice, David. Well done. That means we're going forward now, with a purpose, to find something interesting. Now Sam drives down this road every time and he says he's convinced that Nkanyeni is going to pop out here, so I'm going to go with his advice. And Jesse, you're in Colorado and you're interested in my favourite animals, the wild dogs, and you want to know if I've heard or seen them lately. We haven't heard of them for a while. I'm just trying to think where they last were. I think there were some in the west of the Sabi Sands and some on Mala Mala about 4 or 5 days ago. I think that was the last time I heard of them. I'm not sure which pack they were, but we've definitely had Sands pack around here, and we've had the remainder of the Investec pack as well. That's 11 in the Sands pack at last count, and 8 in the Investec pack. They were the pack that we watched the most last year. We're going to ease along this road, watch the road for tracks carefully. So far, the only tracks I can see are that of this very vehicle that drove down here probably 2 days ago with Samuel, if not yesterday. Sam is convinced that Nkanyeni has got some kind of a den in this area. James, Richard, you would like to see a mongoose track this afternoon. Well, we'll see what we can find, but James, the best time, of course, as you know from this morning, to look at tracks is in the morning when we're on foot. And so if we don't find you a mongoose track today, we'll try and get Jamie to find you one tomorrow morning. She's going to be on foot, but I'll see what I can do. The most obvious mongoose track, of course, will be a white-tailed mongoose track. Very difficult to spot little dwarf mongoose tracks which have tiny little feet like that. White-tailed mongoose about that long, about an inch, without the claws. David, you don't see a leopard with her cubs here, do you? No. A dreadful pity. I don't know why I brought you along. I think this was the termite mound that Sam was convinced was her home. Anyway, we'll drive along here. We're going to go and find that sunset spot, and while we do that, let's head back across to Jamie and see what she's doing.
Well, James searches for the sunset shot. James Richard has tasked me to search for a mongoose track. Oh, sorry. And James, we're going to get to that in 1 second. Let me just answer whoever's calling me. Standing by. I didn't check that fast south. I don't know if you'll let me know. Guys, just having quite a serious conversation about leopard tracks on Gowrie, Maine. sorry about that. You might be getting a little bit of patchy interference every time I use my Game Drive channel. I've been trying to avoid doing it whenever possible whilst I'm chatting to you guys, but every now and again somebody calls you and you can't really ignore them. So I'm sorry if things have been going a bit sort of shaky or jumpy every time I use the Game Drive comms. It is something that we're aware of and we are working on it. Right, so back to James's request after I failed you dismally in your request for a giraffe track yesterday, where I got completely distracted by the Salala lions and kind of forgot. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. So James managed to make good on that today with Bushwalk. Let us see if I can do you a better service this afternoon by finding you a mongoose track. The reason I'm checking so carefully along this road is there's almost always white-tailed mongoose tracks here. And we'll look carefully. I have a funny story to tell you about where we're going now. We're going to see if we can't find some cheetah. Now, apparently, I know James is on Cheetah Plains looking for cheetah, but apparently there are tracks of cheetah crossing into Djuma. I've just come down this road at exactly the wrong time. I can't see a thing. Genre definitely can't. So the text tells me that there were tracks coming in this direction this morning after the game drive. So whether or not it's the two males or if it in fact is that skittish male that has been seen once or twice before, only when I was on leave, remains to be seen, but keep your eye out for a different type of spotted cats. Oh, and just to fill you in as to what we were talking about on the Game Drive channel, we were talking about tracks around Twin Dams, which could well be Karula, but they've been driven over, so they were probably from sometime early this morning. Nevertheless, a really good place. I'm not going to get there now before the end of the sunset safari, but nevertheless a really good place to start on our sunrise safari tomorrow. Oh, and just to, on that note, sorry, just to let you know, I will not be on drive for the next few days, and that is because I'm actually hopping on a plane tomorrow evening on my way to very chilly looking England. I have some stuff to do around in there. Oh, sorry, let me try and rephrase all of that. I'm going back across to where I went to university. I'm going to go catch up with some friends and enjoy a graduation ceremony. So that's where I'll be going for the next few days. I'll be back again on Tuesday afternoon for the sunset safari. Really excited. I haven't been back to the UK in 4 years now, 5 years. Can't remember. It's been a while. It's been a long time. No, very, very keen. But I haven't disappeared for any reason, any worrying reason. I'm just... Oh, how's it? Hello. Sorry, boy. It's okay. Sorry. Oh, startling buffalo all over the show this afternoon. Sorry, gentlemen. The tracks were coming in this direction. I'm sure that he's got to be here somewhere. And just to round off our sort of update session, Deborah, our armchair traveller, you were wondering if I have any updates on Shadow's cubs. So I asked one of the guides from Elephant Plains yesterday if they had any updates on her. She hasn't been seen in quite a while, but they think that is just because she's currently denning in Hoffman's. So she's hidden her cubs somewhere around Hoffman's. Now, Hoffman's is the property that sits in the southwestern corner, or opposite the southwestern corner of Djuma, just outside our Traverse area, which is good news. First of all, it's good news because it means hopefully she's keeping those cubs nice and safe. But also it means that she could well come and pay us a visit at some point in the not too distant future, which would also be terribly exciting. I promise you that we will keep you updated on that front. I know that we're all looking forward to our first sighting of those extraordinary little creatures. We've enjoyed some time with Karula and her cubs, and I feel as though now it's time to enjoy some time with Shadow and to introduce ourselves to her brand new babies. James, that doesn't help. I'm sorry that an entire buffalo herd has walked all over this road. Eddie, the backpacker in the UK, has suggested that I should prepare myself for confusing weather, as the 3 days of summer appear to have disappeared. And Ellie, I'm so out of practice. You know, by the end of my 3rd year at university in England, I was wandering around in midwinter with a dress and a gown on. I was okay. You know, I could stomach the cold. Now I'm not too sure how prepared I'm going to be. If I'm shivering first thing in the morning here at 13 degrees centigrade, I might have a slight problem when I go across there, especially since I'm going to have to put on high heels for the first time since I left the UK. That alone could be disastrous. Positively deadly, and I'm not sure whether it's going to be deadly for me or the people around me. Maybe I'll just figure out a way not to wear high heels. Might be better. But thank you for the heads up. I did actually check the weather. I've got my jacket and my gloves and my scarves and everything prepared. It's all come out of storage. It's all getting ready to go across, along with the high heels and the dress. It's very exciting though, and I'm looking forward to it. Very brief trip to the UK. Well, since we're here, you don't have to twist my arm. You can maybe just go and check the hyena den. Since we're updating you on all of the different movements of the various leopards and other animals, Aaron, you were wondering if I have an update for you on Tingana. Not since he crossed south very close to where Karula had that kill around the Bulgari. I have not seen hide nor hair nor track of him. It's that wonderful Mother's Day morning where we followed his tracks, and we must have just missed him. I mean, those tracks were so fresh, they were positively steaming still. Oh no, it's too quiet. There's no little spotty faces looking at me. I wonder if they're not. They could well be at the other den. They just rotate regularly between the two. Aaron, Tingana's actually got most enormous territory from what we can tell, or at least a very, very large home range. So he's got lots and lots of patrolling to do. Sit for 1 second and make sure that I'm not being blind and that there's not a hyena cub or a hyena adult lying down somewhere here. Don't see anybody. Nope. Just some rutting impala off in the distance. And 2 fork-tailed drongos that have just... Oh, no. Oh. No. 2 fork-tailed drongos that decided to pay a visit and then flew away. Filming birds live. Okay, right, to the next den. While we go there, let's go back across to James and see how his cheetah plains search is going.
Things are going as they were before. Not much to show you, but we're about to go up onto a high point, which is why I'm driving like a maniac and why Dave has lost his teeth, and we are going to be very soon on this ridge crest where a few days ago I discovered with Jean-Dre a beautiful sunset spot. So crack open your favorite snifter, pour yourself whatever it is you like, and have a look at what is about to unfold in front of you to the left-hand side of your screen now, but we will put it in front of your screen. 1 minute. 1 minute. I hope I'm on the right road. Please let me be on the right road. I'll be so embarrassed if I'm not on the right road. I think I'm on the right road. It's just up ahead here. Yeah, here we go. Yes, it's coming, it's coming. There we go. The anticipation, I know, is killing you, everybody. Oh, hang on, a little bit further forward. Right, so now we've got, basically, you've got a picture of the sun going down. This is quite nice, actually. So there's the sun, obviously. That's that great big yellow thing on your screen under the tree. It's not the moon, it is the sun. And it is already starting to set a long, long way north of where it does in the summertime. Now, if I ask very kindly Dave to pan to the left, in other words, to the south, and maybe if you can expose for the mountains, Dave, I don't know if that's possible, and then zoom in on them. There we go. So those are the hills of Ulasaba. I said a little while back that Richard Branson has got a lodge on top of those hills. He does. Those are the Drakensberg Mountains. Now, in summer, in the height of summer, so the 22nd of December, the sun will set just about, well, in fact, over that bush on the left-hand side of your screen. That's how far south the sun will set. And then from the 20th of December, it slowly shifts further and further and further and further and further north until the golden orb that is the star that fuels our planet sets to the north where it is now. Now, if we park in exactly the same place come the 22nd of June or 21st of June, when you will have your longest day in the Northern Hemisphere and we here will have our longest night, it will set beyond the right-hand side of your screen. That is where the sun will set. So I'm always amazed at how far the difference actually is. It's just touched the horizon. Well, it hasn't actually touched the horizon, has it, Dave? It's much bigger on the screen than it is in real life here. Let's sit with it for a little bit longer and just have a listen out to what we can hear. There we go, and you can feel it's just completely and utterly silent. There was one blue wax ball flying over the top going chip chip, chip chip, chip chip. And the wing beats of a Birchall starling. And then nothing. Blazing yellow sky that. And there's lots and lots of stuff in the atmosphere. That's why it's a blazing yellow colour and not sort of blue with a smaller orb. That's very impressive, David. Yes, one must give compliments where they are due, of course. In my case, they're inescapably few and far between, but in yours, I'm actually going to take a picture of that. And Valeria, you say, James Henry, King of the Sunset, just ask his mum. You're absolutely right. My mum, of course, tears her hair out at the number of pictures of the sun that I show her when I go on leave. Well, she's about to get a whole lot more. I'm going on leave at the end of the week, and when she says, can I see your photographs? Or if she doesn't say, can I see your photographs, I will say, I'm going to show you my photographs, and there will be another 150 or so of the setting sun. Don't tell Sam that you think I'm the king of the sunset. He'll be deeply upset and might not recover for weeks. Anyway, I think it's going to take too long for us to wait for that to go down. I think you'll all be asleep. And so let's carry on. And now that we've finished here, let's go across to the queen of the sunsets.
Might be a slight exaggeration. I just park the car and let the wonderfully gifted cameraman do the grunt of the hard work. I've just got to find a nice place to pop them. This is a pretty nice place, though. The silhouette of the Drakensberg Mountains. And beautiful silver cluster leaf trees. It could really only be better if the cheetah decided to walk across the road right in front of us. That would be quite nice. Don't you think, Chandra?
Quite so.
Just by the way, everybody, Chandra is utterly devastated that James took another cameraman to their sunset spot that they discovered together. There you go, Chandra is heartbroken. Beautiful. Not a bad way to end off a Wednesday afternoon. Gracie, who is one of our 8-year-old viewers. Gracie, yes, absolutely. I promise you that I will miss you while I'm gone. I will miss you terribly. I did miss you really when I was on my last leave, and I thought of you often. So I will be missing you, and I'm sorry you're missing me, but I promise you it's only for 4 days, and then I'm back once again in the driver's seat, and I'm going to show you lots of lions and all kinds of other things. Gracie says that girls are good at driving. I agree, Gracie. I'm glad you think so. I think we're quite good as well. Now, James, on a different note, you were wondering about on a mongoose track. I haven't found you a mongoose track, but I've found you one that might be something slightly new. The tracking light is really difficult right now. So we've kind of missed out on our opportunities, but it's not too bad. There you go. For your tracking scrapbook, a set of ground hornbill tracks. And we've actually got, very clearly, we've got 3 of them that walked across the road. There's the furthest of the right, almost a banana-shaped track. Let me actually get out because it helps a lot to point out exactly what it is you're seeing, because at the moment I kind of get that those are just dots in the road. So a ground hornbill. Oh, there's a beautiful one here, but I put the car in the wrong place, silly me. But a ground hornbill, that big bird probably would come, oh, whoopsie, there's a car coming. Come up to about here at its head height. And I'm afraid they're just going to have to put up with me for 1 second. We have to do this really quickly. I'm going to do a very rapid tracking. Okay, so back foot, toe, toe, toe. Back foot, toe, toe, toe. Kind of banana shaped, kind of banana shaped. The end. Sorry to get out of this person's way. So James, I really hope you managed to get your screenshots. It's not a mongoose, but it is a ground hornbill. Let me shift myself so that this poor person can come past. Sorry, that was tracking accelerated course. Cheetah tracks though, unfortunately, that I can see. Let me just let this, maybe just this car go past and to figure out why I can't hear anything. Another beautiful sunset shot, accompanied by the standard June sound of rutting impala. Oh. At last view, Gada apparently in 2 days. It's just 2 more days before you see African sunsets for real. I'm really excited for you, and I hope that you have an amazing time. That is wonderful news. You know, they say of the red African soil that once your feet touch red soil, you either never leave or you always come back. So For you, Khada, I hope that that is always true. There's tracks going into Buffelshoek, but I'm fairly certain we're not there this morning. But let us go and check Sydney's Dam line tracks. Sorry, that could have been anything. That could have been Impala, that could have been Waterbuck, that could have been any track. There are lion tracks going into Buffelshoek that were not there this morning. So let's just double check around Sydney's Dam. All the while, keeping an eye out for those cheetah, because this, of course, is the perfect time of day for a cheetah to be out and about. Almost here at Sydney's Dam. It's been a very quiet afternoon on the Game Drive channel. Just us and our lion sighting, actually, and our buffalo sighting so far. And of course those cheetah tracks. Sorry. A while for my brain to catch up with, or my body to catch up with my brain there. I can see lion tracks in here. Actually, no, I can see leopard tracks in here. But I mean, it's going to be almost impossible for Jean-Andre to show you in this mess of tracks that is this entire mitre drain. They're not as fresh as I thought they were originally. You got them there, Jean-Andre. You're right. That is exactly what I was looking at. Well done. Throwing poor Jean-Andre under the bus there, because as you can see, they're almost invisible. Right, those are fairly old, so we don't need to stress too much about them. Keep examining the different water holes and hoping for cheetah. I'll also throw John under the bus a little bit in that, well, and myself. We've been driving due west for most of the sunset, and we've been struggling into the sun. And Kat in Tampa, you were wondering, do the cameramen go blind when they point the camera at the sun? Jean-Andre, how's your eye sight?
No, very good, unless I'm gazing at James, then they tend to hurt.
Jean-Andre's bantering session with James is continuing onto drives without James. So Jean-Andre's eyesight is fine. He is all good. I think that it is, I mean, it must be pretty bright, and you've got to adjust the setting. And of course, Jean-Andre, being an incredibly gifted cameraman, probably does such things almost second nature without having to think about them. As you know, oh, how wonderful. I'm a very second-rate cameraman. In fact, I'd go so far as to say I'm an appalling camerawoman. My FC disaster, of course, is case in point. But we shall move on from my non-existent camera skills, since we have a beautifully peaceful, typical African scene in front of us. Love scenes like this. Just so beautiful. Sydney's Dam, which is why we're not going to go any closer, of course, because it's on the other side of our traverse area. But sometimes it is really nice to just take in these scenes from a long distance. And Deborah, you were wondering, can an elephant move its ears independently, essentially? Can it flop? Oh, there you go. Little one. Can it flop or flap one ear without moving the other, because you've only ever seen them move both? And I have seen them move one at a time, but not huge distances. Almost kind of like lifting up your ring finger or your fourth finger away from your pinky finger. It's kind of difficult. You can do it, but you can only go so far. You can only sort of separate those two, the pinky and the ring finger, so far. And I think elephant ears are pretty similar. Oh, this is so lovely. I have seen them move it independently. Oh, have you got an itchy foot, girl? Here you go. Why did she do that? Something caught her attention. We saw her body language change. Okay, she's relaxed again. She might have been listening to the impala and trying to just decide if they were alarm calls or something to be worried about, especially since she's got a tiny calf with her. Oh, still itchy foot. I love watching him do that. There you go. Is that better? Possibly. Interesting how they wander off in different directions. Often when you watch an elephant herd leave the water hole, they'll go... She's chased a hardy-dar. Not sure if you guys could see that. Oh, there she goes again. Oh, it's an Egyptian goose. Or is it a hardy-dar? Oh, it's so far away. It's a hardy-dar. That's very, that's ridiculous. Come on, girl. I know the young males do that, but you need to have a little bit more dignity than that. That was really funny. It's the first time I've ever seen an elephant cow chase a bird, a hardy-dar. I must say, the hardy-dar doesn't seem to be terribly intimidated by her. Big female at the back. Wow. She's still giving that hardy-dar a bit of a hairy eyeball. Elephants, they really do not like small things moving close to the ground, close to them. Oh, there we go again. Is she going to chase it again? Really? Keeping a close eye on it. And they've got a bit of a blind spot underneath their head chins and where their trunk is. And I think that's one of the reasons why they get unsettled by sudden moves. That is our snared trunk elephant, isn't it? Is her. Looks like her little family. There's the older cow, and then the younger male, and then the youngest female. And there you go, Heidi in Switzerland. Yes, it is her. It is definitely her, and that's why she moved away in a different direction from the rest of the herd. She kind of keeps sort of to herself. I mean, can I say with absolute 100% certainty that it is her? No. But the family dynamic is exactly right, the group dynamic, the ages of the calves. Just let the hippo interrupt me there for a moment. That young calf is the right age. So I'm fairly certain that it's her. There are other elephants with short trunks. We saw that male this morning, which was one of the most extraordinary sightings I've had, especially given how relaxed he was. Usually a male with that sort of injury can be quite aggressive. He was relatively relaxed. He had, for those of you who missed it on the sunrise safari, it was an elephant with less than half a trunk. Similar to our slightly shorter trunked female, but less than that. And he actually had to arch his back, kind of hunch over to feed with that shortened trunk. Janine, as we enjoy the sun slowly setting. Oh, and a bat. Well done, Jandre. That's incredible. That was awesome. Look at that. There you go. A bat on camera. Look at it flapping. Look at it go. Oh. Wow, Jandre. That's some seriously impressive camera work. Awesome. How cool is that? We get so many times we get viewers asking us to put bats on camera, and Jean-Louis did an extraordinary thing there. But back to where we were, we had a question about where we are in this particular, on our particular traverse area. This is Sydney's Dam. Sydney's Dam. So we're actually looking across our boundary. We're sitting on our northern boundary. Where? Hardy-dars flapping in. So we're at Sydney's Dam looking across. Sorry guys, there is actually somebody trying to call me on the Game Drive channel, so I do just need to answer. So again, we apologize for the odd interference. Standing by. I think it's Lex actually. And while I do, I'm going to send you back across to James to find out what he's doing with his evening.
Sorry. We just went down a steep hill there and I can't stop myself doing that, especially when there are no animals in the offing, but there is a buffalo just up ahead. David, you all right there?
All good.
I wish you could see his face right now. Anyway, buffalo going south of us. There's a buffalo. The buffalo looks a little bit shocked at what he just saw. I'm not surprised. Are you, Dave? I do apologise, everybody. Every time I put my jacket on, I forget to take my microphone off, which is very poor, and then the directors shout at me and they won't speak to me when we get back to camp, and it's all just rather awkward. I apologise. Is that better, Kirsten? There we go. Sorry about that, everybody. Very unprofessional. Buffalo's gone. Equally unprofessional, the buffalo. There's a vehicle up ahead on the road. A little bit suspicious as to what they're looking at. So let's go along and look. I haven't heard anything on the radio. But of course, this is the boundary between us and the south of us. And so if there's a leopard sighting on this side of the road, well, you know, they're not going to call it in on this channel. They don't have our channel. So maybe there's something up ahead. Maybe they're just driving along the road. We'll find out now. Let us see. Soon will be time to put our lights on. Derek Makojan. Hey. How's it going? Good. Good. Anything going on? Of any importance? No? Okay. And he's all south, is he? Okay. Okay. Cool. Thanks, Neil. Okay, cool. Ego. John. Okay. All right. Tavonan. Bye-bye. That's Derek. I'll tell you a story about Derek. Hello, men. How are you? How are you doing? Good? Good, fine, full of joy?
Do you guys get those breakaways?
No, not today. No, not today, yeah. Just to Birmingham. See ya. Phew, quite a busy road, this. So there are some giraffe apparently around here somewhere. And I shall tell you about Derek. Derek used to work at Ngala, where I used to work. And Derek was he's one of the most colourful characters you'll ever meet in your life. And he used to say, oh, there's a giraffe going on to Djuma. He's a kind of fellow who would be described as naughty in the nicest possible way. And you could just see that from his face. I don't know if I don't know if Dave showed you his face, no. The next time we see Derek, we'll show you and you'll know exactly what I mean. He's a wonderful chap. He lives quite close to the gate where we live here, and he now works at Elephant Plains. So Tingana is south of us. He's on Chitwa. He's got a kill there, so he's fine. And I mean, the real reason I was driving along here in hope is, of course, that this is the Gari main road. And this is the road over which Karula crossed yesterday, right over here, hoping to see her. She's not here. Giraffe is talking in very short, strange sentences. Sorry. This is a very magnificent young bull giraffe. He's in full charge, everybody. Duck. I am, of course, being entirely sarcastic. He's just having a stroll down here because it's clear of trees, you see, so it's easy for him to walk. And now he's a little bit nervous of us, so he's going to go around. Now, a giraffe, of course, is possibly one of the most magnificent animals you could ever hope to see. It is incongruous. It is the only one of its kind out here, certainly. You do get something similar called an okapi that lives in the Central African rainforests. And yet, when people come out here, nobody ever says, I just want to see a giraffe. And I think that they are utterly spectacular. 4.5 meters tall. We'll just roll back with him. Coloured like no other animal out here. Eyelashes to rival the longest on any model in the world. Longest tongue out here. Well, proportionately not so much, because a chameleon has a longer tongue proportionately. But still very long, nevertheless. Oh, come on, Rusty. Don't make me start you. There we go. She's moving a little. Okay there, Dave. I think he's going to pop out behind us because I saw a female cross the road behind us. You got any shot at all there? Oh, isn't he lovely? And Dina, you say giraffe are in your top 5 favourites. I think they're in mine too, you know. And while we spend a lot of time with smelly old buffalo bulls, we spend much less time with them. And I mean, these guys are actually rarer than buffalo. Now, I say he's a young bull because he's got a very small kind of what we call median horn. And by median horn, I mean just that sort of calcification of his skull in between his two proper horns. Brandon, nice question from you. Do we get all species of giraffe here? It's a bit of a trick question. We do get all species of giraffe, in that there is only one species of giraffe, but there are 9 subspecies of giraffe, Brandon. And we only get this one, and this is the southern giraffe. That, you know, they could all definitely interbreed with each other totally successfully and produce viable offspring. So although there is only one official giraffe species, you know, there's some dispute over to whether some of them shouldn't be called different species on their own, but there are 9 at least distinct subspecies. I will now attempt to remember them again. I have no doubt I'm going to fail dismally. We have the Angolan giraffe, the Maasai giraffe, the reticulated giraffe, the Thornycroft's giraffe, the Nubian giraffe, still got 4 to go, the southern giraffe, I didn't say him, the Kenyan maybe, no, Central African, and Nigerian. I think the Nigerian might be the Thornycrofts, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, that's just about all of them. And they all are just separated by the place in which they live, and their colours are slightly different. The reticulated giraffe is the one I want to see the most. He's got the most odd-shaped markings. This chap's fantastic. He's very lean. He's not an oaf at all. He's a bit like, he's a bit like Brent Leo Smith was in the days when he was a model, of course. Very model-esque. I don't know if you can hear the sounds of him tearing at the trees. And that is a ziziphus tree, and you just saw him catching his head there as he pulled his head out of the tree, and that's precisely the reason that they've got those long eyelashes. Just to avoid any of those nasty thorns, which he doesn't seem to mind in his tongue, which is still astonishes me. But it's to keep them out of his eyes. Let's roll a little bit further back. Now, Virginia, please would you expand on what you've just said? You've just said you've just taken your kids to the zoo and they had to feed a giraffe and their tongues were very interesting. In what way, Virginia? Because yes, they are absolutely fascinating, and their ability to deal with the thorns, to me, is amazing. And I'm still not convinced that I know why they're able to deal with the thorns. It's got something to do with the fact that they've got a sort of leathery undercovering to the tongue, lots of lubrication from the saliva, but how they're able to deal with those thorns, I just still don't know. So I'd love to know if you actually touched a giraffe's tongue, what it felt like, Virginia. That nice, very peaceful scene as the day starts to fade. We're into the changing of the guard now. And the animals, the creatures of the night are about to come out. It's very dramatic, isn't it, David? Vampires, perhaps. Oh, that's a lovely picture of him going in towards that tree. Okay, well, he's decided that that's enough of that. Let's leave him heading towards that tall tree. And we'll go and see what else we can find. Put some lights on. Now I must get the spotlight out and embarrass myself with my spotlighting technique again. Actually not quite dark enough yet for that, thankfully. Let's continue on up the road here. We're now going to do a pass. We've left Cheetah Plains, by the way. That may have been obvious to you. But we're now going... Ooh, very powerful smelling elephant dung. We're going to make a pass up the western edge of Djuma and see if we can't pick up on tracks of Shadow. Steph said he had tracks of her on Djuma yesterday. Now, we don't know what the status of her cubs is. No one seems to have seen them for ages, but very few people have seen her either. So I think that they're still probably okay. She's been spending a lot of time on Hoffman's, which is to the south of us, and not many people traverse there, especially if there are other sightings to go to. So with any luck, we'll pick something up. We had 2 lovely sightings of her about probably a week ago, maybe 10 days ago. Viam and I. She was just walking around on Djuma again, and it was just so lovely to see her. I'd like to see her again. With her babies, preferably. They're now just over 2 months old. This would explain why the dulcet tones of K. Mac Smith are not in my ear. I'm plugged back in. There we go. And the smell of the evening is just too wonderful. I'm going to stop here so that we can have a smell. It's very fresh. Tinged with a bit of elephant dung, which was a nice smell. Bit of dust, and what we're just starting to feel the fingers of as the night starts to fall and the winter night starts to come towards us is the smell of the potato bush which smells like a McDonald's, but isn't. It's lovely. Now, parlour lady, you want to know if the giraffe is part of the antelope family or if it is a species of its own. I'm going to explain something to you about taxonomy, how best to describe this. I should really draw it for you, but I'm a terrible drawer. I might, if this doesn't make sense to you, I'll set something up and I'll be able to draw it for you. So you've got a family, okay? And below that, so in one family, you will have a number of what we call genera. So let's take, not the giraffe, that's too difficult. Let's take the cats, okay? We've got the Felidae family, and under the Felidae family, we've got the genus Panthera and the genus Felis. They're in the same family. And under the Panthera, then we have species. So under the genuses or the genera, we've got species. So under Panthera, we've got lion, leopard, and tiger. So if we follow from the family, we've got the family Felidae, we've got the genus Panthera, and then we've got the three species, the lion, the leopard, and the tiger. Okay, so it goes species, genus, family. They're three different levels, right? So in the giraffe, they're not part of the antelope. Giraffidae is their family, and then the giraffe itself, that giraffe falls into a genus all on its own called Giraffa, and then the species is Camelolepardalis. Can you believe that? So you've got the species and the genus and the family, and it belongs to its own family. There's only one example of the genus, and that's Giraffa, and there's only one species within that genus. So it's on its own. It's not an antelope, and it most certainly falls into a different species category from anything else within the entire family. So I hope that explains it to you. It might be easier for me to draw it for you, but like I say, my drawing is really bad, especially when it's dark. Okay, so Virginia, you say that you did touch the giraffe's tongue and it's very leathery. So I think that's very interesting. I've always imagined it to be fairly leathery, and I suspect the way they're able to cope with the thorns is that the tongue is probably just able to get rid of them in the same way that your skin eventually gets rid of the thorn, and also that the epidermis or dermal layer, the outer layer, probably replaces itself very often. Thank you for that, Virginia. And while we drive along here and get off this rather main road, let's head across to Jamie and get an update from her.
I'm taking one last ditch attempt at finding the cheetah. Unfortunately, no sign of them here. So we're going to slowly end off our last few moments of the sunset safari by just cruising past where the lions were and seeing if they've decided to get up. Lex is with them at the moment, so we will be able to hear if they do decide to go wandering about. For now, they seem to be fast asleep in the world's most uncomfortable setting. I don't quite understand them, their choices there. Now, apparently you've all caught on to our deeply and very carefully guarded secret that Gendre is in fact Batman. He's begging for secrecy amongst you. It was wonderful to see that Bat on a slightly different note. We'll gloss over the fact that Gendre is actually a crime-fighting multi-millionaire legend. It's just a strange image that just popped into my head. Anyway, back to the bat. Just because we didn't speak too much about that, I was a bit distracted by the elephants that were happening. It was one of the Megaroptera family of bats. In other words, it is a fruit-eating bat. Jeepers, one of them just shot under my wheels. Or almost did. Oh, that's brave, Batman. I don't even know where it's gone.
Yeah, it was there.
You got it?
Well, briefly, yeah.
Okay, I'll take your word for it because I didn't even see that. Batman's getting a little bit ahead of himself here. Genre, of course, being an extraordinary cameraman. All of our cameramen really are, and I don't think, short of being a journalist, a live journalist in a war-torn situation, I don't think that there's much more that is as challenging as some of the camera work that they have to do. There's no second takes, there's no second chances, and just like for us, any mistakes are non-retractable mistakes. You cannot take them back. Just checking the quarantine in case the cheetah decided to come through here. Aaron would very much like a bush baby. Aaron, of course, I have failed in trying to find a slender mongoose. I would now like to find a bush baby. James, Richard, I haven't forgotten about your mongoose track, but the light did just get a little bit too dark. So that's something we will bear in mind, and I'm sure one of us will be able to deliver for you. But Aaron, a bush baby, is a distinct possibility. We should be able to find you one of those between James and myself.
Sorry to drag you away there, everybody. This is just quite an unusual bird that I suspect is not on many bird lists. It's a bronze-winged courser. And it's just going coursing after some insects, and they very seldom stop for any length of time. Oh, look, he's just caught something. Oh, he's picked up a piece of grass. Isn't that nice? I just want to play his call for you. He sounds like a frog when he calls, and it's an unusual sighting. So I would love to know if you haven't got him on your bird list. I'm pretty sure Samuel doesn't. It would have been nice for him to see that bird. Hang on, family list. K for courser. K. Oh, courser. And what Brent saw on the other day on Cheetah Plains was a close relative of the bronze-winged courser called the Temminck's courser, which is even more unusual, but I wouldn't tell him that. Isn't that interesting? Oh, shame, he's calling. Stop. He stopped calling. I'm going to make him do it once more, everybody. It's a little bit unfair. I'm going to do it anyway, though, because I don't think it's stressing him. Oh, this is me playing it. That's him. You heard that? Wah! Cool. There, he's calling again. You hear him, Dave? Can you hear him? Final control can't hear him, but that's got more to do with their speakers than it does with whether we can hear it or not. Ah, it's amazing. So I'm sure you have seen this bird before. It's not uncommon here. It's uncommon to hear it call like that. Unfortunately, I made him call, but that's okay. I still want to go and then see the Temminck's course on Cheetah Plains. So those of you who've been keeping bird lists for a long time will definitely have seen it before. It's not the first time I've seen it here, but it's the first time we've had such a really good view of it. Marvellous. Very nice. Sorry, Mr. Corsa, I didn't mean to make you call like that, singing into the night like a frog. Very nice indeed. Hello, Gracie. Aged just 8 years old. I don't think it's too long before your 9th birthday, if I'm not mistaken. Probably a month or two, maybe 3 months, maybe a little bit far off. Gracie, you say those pecker birds on the buffalo. Why is it that they go for the buffalo's eyes? Are there bugs in the buffalo's eyes? Gracie, there are, but not so much in the eyes, but just underneath. So the next time you look at a buffalo bull, just look how the skin beneath his eyes is free of hair. There's no hair here, and that's because the ticks go underneath the eyes. And so although it looks like those oxpeckers are pecking away at the actual eyes, they're not. They're having a go at the hair under, or the ticks that sit just underneath the eyes, almost kind of, I'll get Dave to show you, sort of in the eyelid. So they sit around there. You see there? I'm glad I don't have any ticks over there, Gracie. But that's kind of where the ticks live. And then they get pecked out of there, and then the buffalo has no hair underneath his eye there. That's why you see those bare patches of skin underneath the buffalo's eye. But they wouldn't be tough enough to be able to cope with having ticks in their eyes or birds pecking at their eyes. There we go. Hello, Mike in Florida. You say that was your 234th bird. That's an unbelievable bird list for this area. Well done. That's brilliant. Okay, let's head across to Jamie and see what she's having a look at.
Still no bush baby for Aaron, but I'm searching every tree so carefully that I actually drove off the road there. I forgot how to drive. But I'm searching intently. And we were chatting a bit about bats, and I mentioned that they were Megacoroptera. It's something that I don't think we talk about, or certainly I haven't spoken about that often, just because we've hardly ever got them on camera. And that is the different families of bats that we get out here. So the Megacoroptera and the Microcoroptera. The Megacoroptera are the much larger, as their name suggests, much larger bat species that rely on their sight and their hearing to find fruit. The Microcoroptera are the insect-eating family of bats, so they rely on echolocation rather, much smaller than the Megacoroptera fruit-eating bats. We get some extraordinary ones out here. We had one fly into our bedroom the other night and hit the fan and plummet to the ground. I was convinced that this poor thing had killed itself on the fan. It had affected its echolocation ability. It was a snub-nosed bat of some kind. I can't remember the exact species. And Brent and myself picked it up in a t-shirt because you don't really want to handle bats without knowing exactly where they've come from, which of course you don't. They can be carriers of rabies in certain instances, and they can bite quite savagely. They've got very sharp teeth, especially the insect-eating ones. So we picked it up in the t-shirt and we sort of turned this poor little thing over. We're quite convinced it was dead. It wasn't breathing. It wasn't giving any indication of life. We were sitting next to it with it lying next to us, trying to figure out what species it was. And it promptly took off and shot right between us, dodged the fan, so obviously learned from its mistakes, despite the severe headache that it must have had, and flew out of the window. And then when I came back from leave, I'd left one of my bedroom windows open, and I was sitting on my bed and I watched as this one bat came swooping in, and I left the window open probably that much. I mean, it was a small gap. And the bat had learned to come into the bedroom and swoop around and then back out of this gap at exceptionally high speeds. It's amazing just how well, apart from when there is a fan involved, just how well that echolocation technique really does work. Something incredible that with our senses, I think we struggle to comprehend just how it does work. No sign of our cheetah, so they might be around tomorrow morning for the sunrise safari, because I haven't seen any tracks coming out of the block where they were sent to disappear into. We could have a chance of seeing them maybe even on quarantine. How exciting would that be? Okay, we're coming across to Bush Baby Central, in my experience. Let us keep our fingers and toes crossed for a nice Bush Baby sighting. This is also where I saw the serval as well, so we've got all kinds of extraordinary animals to potentially look forward to. Roadblock. Eddie the backpacker, who sent me the meteorological advice about the weather. We were wondering about whether or not, where the bats live, and would it be possible to find them and visit their nesting or their roosting sites and put them on camera. And unfortunately, they don't live in caves in this area, although there are certain species of bats in South Africa that are cave dwellers. So our bats roost in holes in trees, very often in hollows in trees, quite a lot under the eaves or in the roofs of houses, although I haven't noticed any living around the Djuma houses. And sometimes even in the open air themselves, but just in very, very dense foliage. So unfortunately, unless we get really lucky, we might find a bat one day hanging from one of the branches, but they tend to be quite skittish and they tend to fly away very quickly if you do find a roosting site. But short of that happening, unfortunately, we don't have any known places where we could pay a visit to see the bats roosting. The incredible thing, of course, about that whole roosting process, I'm just going to take my hat off because I don't think I need it anymore. It's starting to get a bit uncomfortable. The nice thing about bats, or the interesting thing about bats when they're roosting, is that this is relaxed for them. The clenched foot pose is where their muscles are relaxed, held in there by tendons, and they actually have to tense their feet in order to let go, and that of course means that they can roost upside down without falling off. They can sleep without letting go of their perch. And Eddie, if you wanted to visit a place where there are some bat boxes or certain areas, there are bat boxes in a lot of the different camps in the Kruger National Park. Skukuza has quite a few for sure, and Shingwedzi has some as well. Satara. All of those places have bat boxes. Skukuza used to have these incredible old thatched shading, what did you call them? Gazebos almost, I guess, would be the best description, that the bats used to roost under. It was all around the picnic spots, and unfortunately it was determined that that was a little bit unhygienic for the picnickers. So they've since been given bat boxes to roost in instead. As we come now to the end of our sunset safari on this beautiful evening, it really is the most stunning evening. I just want to say thank you to Batman, Gendre, for all of his fantastic camera work, as well as to Kirsty and Jerry in Final Control, and to James and Dave out on the other vehicle. Most importantly, thank you to all of you for your fantastic questions and comments and your enthusiasm on the back of our vehicle. Have a wonderful day, and we will catch you for the sunrise safari. Never get that right. Bye-bye.
Okay, everybody, just a few minutes left. We've come to Philemon's Dip. Not for any particular reason other than I turned off the road I was on because I heard a very cross dikop bird. The dikop did not appear. A startled-looking warthog went running off down the road, though. He turned to the left, and he came scuttling back out again and went back to the right, and what he was so terrified of, I cannot imagine. Anyway, let's pop onto quarantine and see if anything's popped out there. But first, let's do this. Wait, hang on a second. Can you hear? Can you hear anything?
Not a thing.
Not a thing. Isn't that wonderful? The reason you can't hear anything, of course, everybody, is that this pump, which used to go because it predated, it predated the Tyrannosaurus Rex, I think, is being replaced with a solar pump, and it is utterly silent. And it is my fervent wish that one day our vehicles too shall be utterly silent, and you had that experience of just floating down the road there with that giraffe backwards. Wouldn't it be wonderful to do that all the time? One day the technology will exist. It's not quite here yet, especially for the bush, because if anything goes wrong out here, of course, it's very difficult to try and fix it. Hello, Tammy. You want to know if we'll be doing a Facebook live feed after drive tonight? Tammy, we're going to try. I tried last night, but our internet out here at the moment is not great, and that is being rectified. And as soon as it's rectified, we'll probably do it every night. So as soon as I get home, I'm going to try and hook it all up, and if it doesn't work, then I'm afraid we won't. So keep an eye out, and you will do it from the Safari Live Facebook page. So if you'd like to have a kind of a wrap of the day's drive, pop along to Facebook and go to the Safari Live page and wait in eager anticipation. And if we don't get it out, we'll send out a message on the Safari Live page that says we didn't have a strong enough internet. You need quite a strong connection. So we can definitely send a message, but we might not be able to upload video live. But if we can, we're going to give it a go with absolutely. So just a minute left, and then you can all go and do whatever it is you do with your lives when you're not watching us. And we do so appreciate the time that you spend with us, the questions you ask, and the comments you make. As I've said to you before, I find it absolutely stimulating taking a safari with so many of you, and with all these new young viewers we have with the little kids. Right, let's stop over here, David, and take stock of our day. A big thank you to David, of course, on the camera. A big thank you to Gendre and Jamie on the other vehicle. Of course, Gendre flinging insults long and hard. And of course, that's because he knows I wasn't with him today. And a big thank you to Kirsten and Geraldine in the final control. We will see you tomorrow at the breaking of the African dawn at 0530. No, it's 600. Bye-bye.